since we have Tom Duggan here tonight, Tom is a communications expert. And I want to say something, one thing. I've been credited as saying something, and I want to clarify it one time, and you tell me if I don't get it clear enough. We are building a jail only. Is that clear? Well, if I didn't make it clear, then you could clarify it because you're a good communications person. So. All right, so we're considering property tonight is the main purpose of the meeting. If you go by our master plan of action, the next step in our process is deciding where we're going to build a jail. And we'll look at all the different locations that we've got that we've talked about. We'll start out at Hayes property. Can you hear me now? Okay. Okay. We'll start out Hayes property. Is there any commissioner that wants to say anything in favor of the Hayes property? Pro or con? We had looked at the property across Allen's Ferry Road behind the middle school, which is known as Foster property. Anything on that? We had a property were approached about a property on West Main Street that we talked about in our last meeting. Anything pro or con on the West Main Street? All right, so that leaves us basically with 3 pieces of property, and one reason we did not meet last week like we'd planned to was because we had an additional piece of property come back, and that is on Robinson Road, which is next door to AAA. 40 acres. The price is $1.2 million, which works out to $30,000 an acre. And so we'll put that on the side for a minute. Let's talk about the downtown property. Now, what I passed out to you, and audience, what y'all didn't see, Matthias helped me over the weekend to pinpoint each property and then draw a half-mile radius around it to kind of be able to tell us how much impact we would have on residents. I did it for the downtown property, I did it for Smith Road property, and I also did one for Robinson Road. So you can look at the three drawings, and you can tell the greatest impact on residences and traffic is downtown. So let's consider the downtown property. Anybody want to say anything about the downtown property?
That's going to be the least objection. I have heard very little to none objection down there. Matter of fact, I've heard probably of the 85% that voted no about moving it, that's what they meant. They meant to leave it where it's at. They don't want it in their neighborhoods. They want it left where it was on location. They like to see us to repair what we've got and add on what we need. Not some big elaborate, you know, we need to do what we've got to do with. And that's where we're at. They don't want it in other parts of this county. Nobody wants it there. The West Main, nobody wants it over there. Had several calls the first day that it come out on the news. They didn't want it there. So, and you're talking about the least, well, that's the most congested area because it's downtown. That don't mean it's going to affect residents. I mean, the residents that live behind the jail are already living behind the jail. So I'm going to stick with building it where it's at.
Other comments?
But on down the road, if we're looking ahead, there's no way we can ever expand on this if we ever need to, and that's what's going to happen with the population growth that we've got. So we're pigeonholing ourselves into one location that will never ever be expanded on again.
How long do you think this is going to last? We've already got a 23-year-old, 24-year-old building that the ones that come by and set the rules and standards don't want to shut down. You want to build a $85 million criminal justice center, in 20 years they come and close it too? Then where are we going to go?
I don't want to spend $65 million.
Well, but that's what we presented to start with.
50.
That's what we presented to start with, a $65 million bond.
But if it was done,
And they voted no.
if it was done 20 years ago, we're talking about $15 million instead of $60 million.
Well, but we didn't build 20 years ago. We built the annex 23 years ago.
Absolutely.
How long? How long ago?
2001 it was opened.
Right. And it would have been, how long, what did it cost to build then?
I did know, and I didn't write it down. I looked at it. It wasn't nothing like what we're looking at now.
So if there
But
was
they also
future
had,
planning-
they also had about a 20-year plan that was phase one in a 3-phase program. They was going to build on the back side of it, the next, which was about 44 beds. Then they was going to build on the east side as needed, and that was going to be 76 more beds. Well, see, we didn't follow through with all that. So a plan is only good as you use it and follow through with it. It doesn't matter what kind of plan you have, but if you're not going to follow through, or 10 years down the road, you're going to change the plan, that's bloated out of the water.
So the codes have changed in the 23 years that this opened.
And they'll change in the next 23 too.
So the paper that was passed around is saying 23 million. Where did that number come from?
That's based on the number of beds that were going to be built to add on and to remodel what we've got.
I've never seen any architect drawings showing that number.
I've never seen no
estimates or
architect
anything.
give us a for sure number of figures on the money
So we
it's going to cost to build what
So
they've
we pulled a number
drawn.
out of the sky,
You know?
throwing it to the public, hoping they bite that instead of looking forward to the future, so we never have to go through this again.
Hey, we've got plenty of room where we're at. We've got the veterans building that can come down and can build several cells right there. Several. How many beds do you think we're going to need in the next 50
I think
years?
we need 125.
Okay, that's great.
With room, a shelled space for 25 more when we need it.
Okay.
And then a space, if we ever have to go into it again, we never have to buy property again, that we can just build in one spot. If you do what your plan is, we're stuck there forever.
But we still got plenty of room to build the 125 and add 25 more, and we've still not touched the lot that the veterans building's sitting on. There's probably 2 more 100 beds that could be built there.
I don't want probablys, I want to see some numbers.
Well, you ain't showed me none
Just
either.
like this $25
You know,
million that they
so
stuck out there, I've never seen
I'm
that
going to
number
be for
before.
staying where we are. That's what the public wants. They want us to build what we need, not what we want. This ain't J.C. Penney's or Sears and Roebuck catalog and a Christmas that we go check off everything we want. We got to stay within our means. And that's what the
Absolutely.
public knows.
Absolutely.
I know it, and we all ought to know it.
Absolutely, but the thinking that we're never going to grow, this is all we're going to have, that doesn't work anymore. That doesn't work.
There's plenty of room there for growth.
So I just want to point out one thing. You said it yourself. This has been a 3-phase plan for 20 plus years. And not one time has plan or phase 2 ever been done.
You're right.
I mean,
If you don't follow the
now
plan,
we're all here. I mean, there's people sitting back there and there's people sitting up here that's been on this the whole time. Nothing was ever done.
I'm agreeing. If you don't follow a plan, the plan's useless.
But the 28 million, I mean, that's a number somebody pulled out of the high air, trying to get the WJLE online to just rally behind it. I mean, if y'all want to get some real numbers, get some real numbers, and that's fine. Matt, if you want to pay some architect $100,000 to come in here and write it out, let's get it done. Let's pay these people to get this done.
I think one thing we got to remember too is that TCI has told us that there's absolutely nothing that we can do with the downtown facility to bring it up to standards that they have. And in defense of the commission that built that in 2001, the state of Tennessee at that time was not specifying and giving specifics on how a jail was to be built. At that time, a lot of the jails were built in a dormitory fashion. Matt found Phase 2 and Phase 3, both of those were dormitory type jails. Dormitory type jails do not let you classify prisoners the way that the state requires us to classify prisoners. You can't just throw everybody into one big dorm room and put them in there regardless of what their crime is. You bring them in, you got to classify them, and you got to put them in cells according to where their crime fits. So you can't do just the big dorm rooms anymore. You can do, and I think they said we can go up to 20 beds in a dorm room. That's what, when we looked at Smith County has 2 cells that have 20 beds in each one, and then they have some 2-man cells, and they have some individual cells, which are isolation cells for people who can't get along with any of the inmates. So, but that is the direction that the state is requiring everybody to go, is so that when you bring a prisoner in, when Patrick arrests somebody and they come in, he can classify them according to where they should be in the jail. And I know, and a lot of people probably feel the same way I do. These are criminals. They don't deserve any special treatment, but even though they're criminals, we have to protect them. Any law enforcement will tell you that when they arrest somebody, they've got to take care of that person. You can't just treat them any way you want to treat them. So part of that is that the renovation of the downtown location is just not possible. The state would not okay us for do it. Now, can you build downtown? Yes, we saw a plan to build downtown, but it was like a 3-story building to get what we needed. And when you start building 3-story buildings, you run into the problem of future staffing. You got to add costs to every level that you have up there. Each level of cells has to have the same number of correction officers on it. So you're adding a lot of costs for future, whereas if you can keep it all on one level, you can have less staff.
And you have elevated cost.
Pardon?
And you have to have elevated cost.
Yes.
There's a whole lot more to building a multi-story building than a one-level building.
Right. And in the location that we're looking at, the way they had it laid out, they went all the way to the property lines, which gave us no room whatsoever to do a perimeter fence because your building went right to the property line. And I know Daniel works for a company that builds in Nashville, and he says they build like that all the time, right to the property line. But we're talking about building a jail, that we need to be able to keep people from getting in and getting out.
So I'm really glad to hear that the mayor has phase 2 and phase 3. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly? From you, Larry? And so my question, what I think would help a lot of us, is to have an architect look at those, see if they can be adjusted, to meet what today's standards would be. The reality, I will be honest and say I'm really tired of hearing about the plan for downtown that was put forward. It's frustrating because it was not a plan for just a jail. It was a plan for a justice center and a 190-bed jail. And I think it would benefit all of us to show the public what that would look like, or show them it cannot happen. I think we've got to have something to show and not just talk, because it sounds like, it feels like somebody just throwing stuff out there, just like, has been said about the 28 million. And, our job after the bond resolution failed was everything was on the table. And it has felt like the downtown, and I don't know that the downtown place is the best place for this to happen, but I think to make the best decision and for our community to feel like we're making a informed, solid decision, we've got to show this is all we can do here. And it's not working. It's maybe modifying those plans, with an architect, get the South Build Services. They're apparently the ones who did it. I don't know if they can do something. I don't know. But I think from my perspective, in order to truly just rule out downtown, it would help all of us to see what just a jail looks like. And like I said, our job's to be open to all the possibilities. And that means on-site, that means somewhere else. And I think we have to do that, myself included. And there's no question that we've got to put a significant amount of money, because it's going to be millions of dollars no matter what we do, to fix our problem, whether that's where it currently is or whether that's somewhere else. So that's just part of it. But I think we've got to have something to show it either can or can't be done. And I don't know what that looks like. I'm not an architect, and none of us here are architects. And Mr. Bass is not an architect. He'll tell us that. So that's my thought on the downtown property.
So if you look at the 3 phases for the annex, the original capacity was 32, then phase 1, which we have today, the planned capacity was to double it to 32 more. Phase 2 would then be 44, phase 3 would be 76, so that the total there is 184. So when we had spoke to the architect and the construction company April of 2024, they had given us 3 options. 2 of them were for a justice center at a new location, and then the last one was a jail and a justice center in the current location. The cost for those 2 was, I want to say, 70 million. 14 of that, if I recall, was the courthouses themselves. So if we were to do the numbers I have here from back in the summer, where if we did the current jail, 190 beds in the current location, for it to be up to code, have the classification, separation, things like that, it would be 51,775,000. Soft costs would be 5 million. The housing during construction time, based on the ETA, would be 2.2 million we would pay to have our inmates housed elsewhere. So that puts us at 59,121,000 based on those estimates at the time. That was, again, the not to exceed cost. And I believe the construction company as well had a clause. The reason they were selected during the selection process was they had a clause that basically said, we're going to give you a max cost. If it goes over that, we will pay for it. So yeah, current location, 190 beds, which would fulfill the phase 2 and 3 as far as bed count goes. 59 million would be the max cost.
Anyone else?
So I question the number of beds at some point in time. That's not, we gotta get land before we get beds. That's a different conversation. Doesn't even have to be tackled tonight, but that definitely is something that could be discussed later, about particularly this property. When we were given these papers the last meeting we had, it says approximately 1.57 acres there on the current spot. Does that include the veterans area? Because they're using that for part of their administrative part.
Yes.
That does?
That was everything that the county owned, that the sheriff's office and the jail was using.
Okay.
And I took out the attorney's office and took out the school board building,
Okay.
and took out the other property that we don't own.
Okay.
The 2 properties we don't own.
Okay. Okay. So 1.57 is sitting on that spot that is being utilized currently. I know there's not a lot land there beside it, but the land that's been spoken of before, I don't know if they're even interested in selling or something. Is that worth a discuss in, kind of talking about what Ms. Beth said here is just, I think we need to, as we said last week, the pros and the cons of, is that we can't, I don't see us building up. I don't see us. So and that might rule out the question, because that one, when we had, the company that showed us the one piece of property that fit right up to what you were showing, and that was, how many levels was that? I don't know. It was several levels. That definitely is not a good plan for safety, and that's the one thing that I remember from our very first jail meeting is Sheriff Ray asked, please don't go multiple levels, or I would avoid multiple levels. I'm not putting words in his mouth, but that was one of the first 2 or 3 things that Sheriff Ray said. So that has always come back to me that we need to build it on one level, the best possible. So we need to make sure.
And I will add to that, I did talk to Renee Hennessy. We talked to Diane Kirby.
Turn yours on.
I talked to Renee Hennessy, who is Diane Kirby, who owns that property next to it, and they said it is for sale. $359,000 is the ask price. So the property, the little sliver right there beside the Smith Review, $359,000.
How large is that?
It's less than a half acre.
Okay. So that would add a half acre, which put it about 2 acres sitting there, just for if that was something with that 300.
Anything else? Let's move on then let's talk about Smith Road property. That is 72 acres. The land is good out there. It lies good. Because any of this land, even the downtown location, would have to be soil tested. It has to be drilled, core drilled, to make sure we can build on it. So there's a lot of testing going into the land before we actually start the construction anyway. Smith Road is 72 acres. The price is $2 million. Bob has looked at this. It lays good. It does have the sewer out there. It does have the water line that we need. Smithville Electric says that we can run 3-phase power from East Main up there, which according to them, the cost would not be that much that we would have to pay for. So the only thing we're lacking up there is a 3-phase power. And like I say, 72 acres. And anything that the county needs in the future, they would not have to go out and buy land for it. And I don't know if we will ever buy land that cheap. That comes out to $27,000 an acre, a little over $27,000 an acre. I think 27,775 or something like that an acre, which is fairly cheap. And if you look at the residential impact, a half a mile from it, there is some, but not near as much as what there is downtown. The downtown area really covers a lot. You think of downtown, well, I'm not going to say anything else about downtown, but Smith Road property is it's nice and flat. It has a lot of potential for anything that the county would need in the future. And I know I can tell, and I'll tell the public this. One reason that I ran for county commission in 2022 was because I felt like the county was not doing enough planning for the future. We were planning everything on a day-to-day basis. What we need right now is all we need to build. Let's don't worry about what the children and grandchildren have to do. I wanted to see us move on to something for the future. Smith Road property gives us enough land that we can do a lot of things out there for the people of the county. Things probably that they haven't even thought of yet, and maybe things we haven't thought of that future commissions will think of it and say, you know, that's a good place to put it. Any questions or comments on Smith Road?
Yeah, Smith Road is, right now, there's one contractor that's building 30 to 40 homes right across the street from your highway department. So there's 30 to 40 homes that it's going to affect. And then there's another contractor that's looking at 100 to 120 home project. So Now, let's figure out the houses now, when that happens in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, what's the percentage that you're gonna affect of houses?
Well, I think.
That's in the future.
I think okay, you want to do that, let's go back downtown, look at
You
what
know.
we got downtown.
You don't
Look
have
at all the things we-
200 homes downtown,
You have a lot of residents downtown.
You know.
You have a lot of businesses downtown.
but
have
you
five-
said that,
have
you
five-
said
you have-
Smith Road wasn't gonna affect
you-
near
you
as
have-
many,
you have
but it
five-
is.
All right, no comments from the public yet, please. No comments from the public, please. Any more pros and cons on Smith Road?
Where's this development going at?
The 30 to 40 homes is already starting right across the street from the highway department, which is behind the Cantrell property. Then there's another 100 to 120 homes right down the street that's fixing to start. I've done talked to the ones behind the Cantrell home, the contractors,
The Cantrell home?
right across Donnie Cantrell. Straight across the street from the highway department.
So the property behind North Side?
Yes.
Between there and North Side.
You're not talking about the Culver property? I think it's right alongside the road, right alongside Smith Road,
It's across the street from the,
the highway department. Yeah, right across the street. from the
it's
highway.
on the same
It's right
side of the
beside
road
Donnie
that the
and
highway
Pat's
department.
house. He's bought that land right beside it, and he's building houses through there.
About 20 or 30.
Yeah, I talked to him last Saturday. He said it didn't bother him where we built. The 120 homes, that failed. That is not an option now.
But yeah, they are building.
All right, no more comments from the public. One more comment, and Patrick will clear the room. Okay, you want to move on to Robinson Road?
No, I have a question when we get ready for it, but about Smith Road.
And go back. You got any more questions about Smith Road?
Yes.
Okay.
Is all of it in the city limits, or is part of it? Could you break that apart for us?
All of it's in the city limits.
So
It
all
was all
72
it was all
acres
annexed
are in
in.
the city limits? Okay.
Yes.
I think that's important to know, just for the fact of the sheriff's office has to be in the city limits. So
Yes.
that's kind of a factor in pointing out these properties. Okay.
And I want to ask the sheriff, a concern was raised, that I heard. Is Sheriff Ray still here? When inmates are released from prison, are they, if nobody picks them up, do they just go out the door and walk down the road? How does that work? Because that's not something I ever thought about until that question was asked.
Are you talking about when we release somebody? Is that what you
Yes, like
said?
when they've served their time and it's time for them to go,
And no one showed up.
and nobody's there to pick them up, what happens?
Yes, the majority of people have, if they're getting out, knows what day they're going to get out and have
Okay.
somebody pick them up.
Okay.
There's occasionally that somebody does leave the jail walking. I mean, I can't sit here and say that they don't. If they don't
Right.
have a ride home or whatever,
Right.
yes, that can happen.
Okay, thank you. I just, like I said, that is not something I ever thought about. And
But-
a concern was raised about two schools being, nearby.
But I will say this, usually they don't hang around the jail there long after you release them, because they're probably scared that you'll find more warrants in another county or whatever. So they don't sit around the jail waiting on somebody to
Right.
come and pick them up.
Right, right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was the only question I had.
Okay.
With that being said, what is the distance from the current location to the new school and the north side versus Smith Road to north side and the new school?
So on the back side of the 71 acres, the back side, it is closer to the current jail, to north side and that new school, than it would be if it was placed back there.
To the Smith Road location?
Yeah. Nobody ever thinks about looking where it sits now compared to the north side.
Right.
Now, the people that live there, I understand not wanting it.
Absolutely.
And being upset, but to keep trying to say, we'll be close to a school, the
Absolutely.
current jail sets closer than what it will set.
That's just my point on that.
Yeah, the new Smithville Elementary will be inside that half-mile radius from the downtown. North side actually sits just outside it. It's like 20, what'd you say, Brandon, 2,500 square feet? Or 2,500 feet from the downtown? Okay, Robinson Road. It's 40 acres. It sits basically between two factories. And the price is 1.2 million.
So I think Robinson Road is our best option. Currently, it sits between two factories, so we're not really looking at that much residential. It's already got the three-phase, it's already in the city, it's already got the sewer, and we already got the water. It has the least amount of interference on the homes, and, you know, there's two factories there, so what noise is already there, they're kind of already used to.
Any other commissioners want to talk about that?
Is all 40 acres in the city?
Pardon?
Is all 40 acres in the city?
There is, if you look at the very back of the property,
Okay?
you go straight across the back of the property line, the city limits diagonals, there's 12 acres that's not inside the city that should not be that big of a problem to annex in. Because it's 12 acres that, and it's 12 acres that joins the other property that the same people
On
own.
the backside.
Kind of
So
a
it's
triangle.
not a, they own the property that goes in all the way back behind AAA and on the other side of it. Same people own that property. So that 12 acres is just where the city limits are drawn on it.
It just kind of runs there, yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
kind of a
sir.
diagonal across there. The thing we would have to do is make sure that we put the sheriff's office inside the city limits if we don't get it annexed. But the current owners also said that they would be happy to pursue annexation of that 12 acres.
And that's cutting off a piece of property, so it'd have to have a new survey anyway.
Okay.
So that'd be the time to get it annexed.
Okay.
So how's the rest of the commissioners feel? I mean, where are we at on this? I mean, we can't go forward to get an architect to look at anything until we decide on the property. So at some point, we've got to decide what we're going to do.
The 2.3 miles from the courthouse is a little bit of, it's the longer distance of all of these. I've kind of weighed all the options of all. That does, thinking
It is
that-
further, and we might ask Patrick, what are your thoughts of that location as far as being a sheriff having to transport prisoners downtown to the courthouse?
2.3 from the courthouse is what the,
Sure.
you sure?
Any other commissioners want to say anything about any of the piece of property?
Well, I think, Matt, I don't think you have to have a location before you could get a design built. I mean, that's not true. I can design a house and have already designed, then I have to get the property to fit it. So Matt can seek whatever, an architect, get something, start getting drawn up to whatever we're gonna have done, or at least a couple of options. Now, what I will say is, this ain't gonna be free. You know, everybody's kind of threw shade on this company that's come in here and did all this work for us, but they did it all for free. So now we're gonna start having to pay the pipers. So if you don't mind, can you reach out, get us some quotes on architects? I don't know how we'll have to go about, you know, choosing who bid it out or whatever, but, I mean, all this is gonna cost quite a bit of money. But if that's what's needed and wanted, then we need to do it.
So I think what we would have to do is we would have to vote at the next commission meeting to employ an architect. I don't think he's going to get an architect to come in and work for free.
There's a lot of variables to that. you gotta know how many beds that you're gonna build, because that increases the cost significantly. The
Absolutely.
more beds that you go up, you're gonna have to look at, do you want, single cell rooms, 3 cell rooms, 5 bedrooms, 20 bedrooms? Do you want, there's so many different options, I guess, out there specifics that you would need to have a confirmation on, before you just go out to bid something or to design something.
So I thought at least the number, I know it keeps going back and coming back up. I thought the number of the bed had already been decided.
So the commissioners in a jail committee meeting made a recommendation for a 190-bed justice center, but we have not made a recommendation for how many bed jail to build. And I've heard some people say 120. I've heard people say 150. I've heard people say we need to stick with the 190. So I don't really have any direction on how many beds do you want, what type of facility.
Well, I would figure the 190 wouldn't matter if it was in a jail or a justice center. I mean, the bed count don't change.
Yeah, and I agree so by saying no to the Justice Center, we basically just took the courtrooms off. The building pretty much stays the same, but you can construct that same building in many different ways. So you can think of it as less walls you have, the cheaper it's going to be. So we had a lot of 2-bed cells in the first conception, first concept rather. But you could bring down the cost more and more as you take away from walls. So if you make a 10-bedroom instead of a 2-bedroom, obviously you got less walls involved, that's less cost. So like Humphreys County recently has built a jail, but they have a lot of large. It takes away from your classification,
Right.
but it does drop the cost some. So
The footprint looks like it's the same. It doesn't matter if it's 125 or 190. The footprint of the building and the footprint of the fencing around it looks like it stays about the same.
yeah, it's generally the same. You're gonna need a square building.
Yeah.
And they told us we need, 15 acres? No matter what we build, pretty much, that would serve you for a good 30 years and still give you room to grow on and to do what you need. But as far as me going out and contacting an architect, we really need to have what we want in place, because that cost adjustment is gonna be there.
So when the schools, did theirs, their person did a whole bunch of different designs for them.
And our architects have too.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they had lots of different school designs.
They had their property already, though.
We can make up
I don't think the
multiple
property really
concepts.
affects
But
what we're
but
just
anyway.
trying to get a picture drew.
If
I mean,
it- Yeah, I'm sorry, Greg.
Oh, that's okay.
Despite what you're gonna build, I think all the properties that you're looking at is gonna fit
Right.
what we're gonna build, whether it was 120 or 200, it wouldn't matter. All these properties would suffice.
Well, I think if we go more larger sales, we're gonna eventually run back into the same problem we got now.
Yeah.
So, Patrick's the man running it, so he would probably be the best person to tell you what they need right now. But 2-man sales is always a plus.
Yeah.
And you gotta lock people down, and you gotta segregate them, and all that other good stuff.
I had a comment texted to me on the Robinson Road project too, and I thought of it earlier and failed to mention it. We would have to go further back on that property from the road, because the front of it is pretty low. You'd have to go back, and even Bob mentioned that last week when he was up here and looked at it, that we'd have to go further back and look at it, which is going to increase the cost of your road, your sewer, your utilities to get back there to it. So there's going to be some cost involved in getting back there as far as we'd need to get back to build it. And you'd have to get back to soil testing before we really know.
And he had a good idea about the if we construct the road going in, it's a perfect spot to cut up lots to sell to attorneys, bail bonds and stuff like that to offset some cost. I said, when we looked at the property on Robinson Road, it is a further drive to get back to the property. And to offset that cost, we can cut up the lots going into the jail to possibly sell to attorneys or bail bondsmen to offset some of the cost.
Now, is that the property that runs in behind the Ponder House
Yes.
towards Timers?
It's to the left of it. Or it's actually it's right next to AAA.
But is it on the left side of AAA and
It's on
run
the left
toward
side of
Timers?
AAA, yes. The right side is not in the city.
An important factor also is looking at usable acreage, not just acreage in total, but what can you use? What is, I mean, you got wetlands, you've got low-lying areas. Anytime you incorporate that into trying to construct anything, you're going to add to your cost. So that's very important.
We want both properties. There's really not a whole lot of wetland on either one.
Robinson
The
Road-
Robinson Road, at the top, it's got a little pond that's wet, but at the very back, it shells out pretty good. We went right after rain, and it was not mushy at all. I mean, I wouldn't have been afraid to drive my truck around it.
The road frontage to the Robinson Road property is kind of a wet area.
Yeah, but where we build this center at, this jail, it's not. It's back there on that flat spot. The road part would be that's why we would have to build it back there. Just the road would go through that little bit of drain area. And I think some new culverts and stuff right there would take care of a lot of that.
But you're still paying for that piece of property that possibly could not be used for anything.
Yeah.
Draining the water is going to be your cheapest problem. Getting the water run that way, that's going to be your cheapest. You can have open ditches and run the water off, just as long as it don't stand there.
Run away.
Anything else? Patrick, gonna make your report?
Thank you.
First of all, let me say that the sheriff has really not a whole lot of power over what he can build a jail the way he wants it. He can do insight on what the jail needs to have in it, some pros and cons about things that they want to do, but the county commission has the obligation to maintain a safe and humane jail. So I have done that, some in my report this time, because I figured there would be some questions that was coming up, and hopefully I could answer some of those. I'll be willing to take any questions from the public during the comment time or after the meeting, or whatever I can do to help you. All right, this is the report from July the 1st of last year until today. In our 54,235.99 other charges, that is our inmate housing, we have put it had $65,000 in it. That's what's always been in our budget ever since I've been in office. And you added $200,000 to this year's budget. So we have spent out, as of today, $240,000 from July the 1st of housing inmates in Robertson County, White County, Putnam County, and Bedford County at this reporting as of today. We also have the community probation monitoring ankle monitoring fees that are on there. Today, we have 36 inmates housed at our jail. 7 are there for court today from other jails that we're housing in. So we're still paying the fee, even though they spent the day here, for them to be there, because we have to take them back this evening. So we are housing 19 people in the other jails. Bedford County, we have 8 inmates there at $44 a day, which is $352 for today. Putnam County is $50 a day. We have 8 inmates there, which is $400. White County, we have 2 inmates there at $55 a day, which is $110. In Robertson County, we pay $55.40 per day, and we have 1 inmate there, which is $55.40. We have 6 people that are currently on ankle monitors at $6.50 per day. So that's a total of $39. So today's amount is $956.40 to house for this one day. So you have to look at our jail population. We got rid of some inmates last week and gained some after I done the report today because we had criminal court. So our numbers are always changing. Our inmates that we send out will always change, and our numbers in our jail that we house there will always change, or the ankle monitors will change also. On our medical and dental service, which is $54,230, $340. There was $100,000. That's what we've had in our budget for inmate medical cost. You had just added this last meeting $50,000 into that. A lot of that is where we've been housing inmates in other counties. We don't get to choose where they go, or we don't get to try to get the judge to get them out, but if they're going to have some kind of procedure done, because we don't know what their medical is till that jail calls and says, hey, we've sent so-and-so to the emergency room, or so-and-so has to go to a doctor's appointment for a follow-up. So we're just pretty much collecting the bills on those. Our maintenance and repair of vehicles for our that'll be the 54-110-338 is over budget as of this month, and that is for transports. We think that has added the cost of that, of where we're running, where there were 7 of them that had to be picked up today from White County, Bedford County, and Putnam County. So we're, if you've got more than usually 3 males or 3 females that are getting picked up from one of those jails, then it takes 2 cars. If you got 1 male and 1 female from Bedford County, then it takes 2 cars, because you can't transport them together, male and female, or more than 3. What I'd like to talk a little bit about tonight is the add-on work descriptions to our employees about what has been going on since the TCI took us back down to 52 beds, and we have been having to move inmates around. This concerns our correctional officers, our jail sergeant, and deputies. And I'm going to sort of run you through the scenario of what happens when someone comes in that we have to have shipped out to a different county, which is our females. We don't hold any females anymore in our jail unless it's maybe for an overnight, if they come in on a night shift, where the jail sergeant can come and get them into another jail. Or if it's a sex offender, we can't hold those in our jail because we don't have any room to do that. So those are always going to be people that are shipped off, or anybody that has problems with another inmate that is in there, or a charge of where, even though we do not classify inmates in our jail because we don't have that space, we still don't put somebody that has a first-degree murder charge or somebody in general population. We still don't do that. Our correctional officers retrieve an inmate from the deputy. Correctional officers will then take an inmate to the jail nurse for a physical. Correctional officers will then book the inmate, which is approximately 20 minutes to book, strip search the inmate, and issue the jail-issued items. The inmate is then put into one of 3 holding cells, and I've got if available because those holding cells are also holding cells for anybody that's intoxicated, anybody that's on medical watch, anybody that's on suicide watch, anybody that's come in from another jail for court. That's where we have to put them. The jail sergeant will then find the inmate a place to be housed. The jail sergeant may call as many as 15 or more jails to find that spot and to set up a transport with a deputy. Once a jail is found for the inmate to be housed in, the jail sergeant is required to make a packet to go with the inmate. That packet consists of booking information and medical information. Correctional officers will then retrieve the inmate from the cell, gather and inventory all the jail items that was issued to the inmate and released from the booking, which is approximately 20 minutes to release from the booking. The deputy will then take the inmate to the designated jail to be housed. The jail sergeant is responsible to track each and every inmate who is housed outside of her county. This consists of attorney appointments, recovery court appointments, doctor's appointments, and court dates. If the inmate has to go outside of their housing facility in another county to the emergency room, the jail sergeant arranges for a correctional officer here to drive to the hospital in that county and sit with the inmate. If the inmate is in the hospital longer than the employee's shift, the jail sergeant will then send another correctional officer to relieve the one that is there. If an inmate causes trouble at a facility, they also make us go and pick up the inmate and find another facility to house them in. By taking those correctional officers away from us during emergency room visits and things like that, doctor's appointments and other things, that short staffs our staff at the jail. So if an inmate that is housed in another facility has a doctor appointment, makes bond, or has a court date, the jail sergeant also is responsible to arrange transportation back to the jail. So a deputy then will pick the inmate up at the holding facility and transport them back. Once, if this inmate is a sex offender or a female, they have to find another holding cell for the inmate to go in when they come back, like we talked about earlier. We have 3 holding cells, and they're used for the medical cells, detox cells, intoxicated inmate holding, and court holding cells. Once at the jail, the correctional officers will repeat that same thing about the intakes, they issue the jail supplies and things, and either we'll keep them there till they go to court, and then we release them, carry them back, and do it all over again. Or if we release them back out to society, then of course they just do the release, which is 20 minutes, and then they have to get all their jail-issued stuff back if they have any. Problems that we face at the current jail that we're at now. We have no places to hold sex offenders. We have no places or cells to hold female inmates. No proper place to hold inmates on medical watches. We're housing them in holding cells that are made for drunk tanks. That's where we're holding them at. The jail can't classify inmates as required by TCI. And here's something that I heard y'all talking about a while ago that I have in my notes. Remember, you can't have one cell for each classification. Because there might be one inmate that will need to go into another jail cell because he can't get along, she can't get along with somebody, or he or she is a sex offender and can't go into another general population cell. So you can't say, well, we're going to put 15 beds as a sex offender cell and that's it. That will not work. That's why in the beginning the architect had asked us and talked to us about some of those two-man cells. Because with two-man cells, you can move them ever how you need to move them. But your dormitory-style cells will not work for that. So that is something to remember. We also had inmate square footage problems. That's the reason we got reduced down. No natural lighting in the cells that's required by TCI. We drilled holes into the walls of the jail and put plexiglass up to sort of suffice our natural lighting for TCI to be able to keep on our plan of action. Our kitchen space is very small for all of our inmates that we have to prepare food for. We have trays up there that we use, plastic trays with tops on them. It is very, very congested in there, trying to cook, trying to put all the trays together and everything, and that's 3 times a day that happens. There's no storage space for the canned and boxed food items. There's no room for the freezers that we have in the basement. We got just freezers like that you have at your house. I think there are 4 or 5 of them that is down there. There's no sufficient laundry facility that is there. We have store-bought washer and dryers that we use, and they're used every day for the whole day. They're always, each cell gets their bedding or their clothes washed each day for that cell. Every third or fourth day, then you would get your clothes washed, or you would get your linens washed. It could be either one of those. Our medical rooms are too small. The jail sergeant and the jail corporals share an office together. Right beside of it is their medical room. Those rooms were built in 2001 in the jail annex for interview rooms for people to bring individual inmates that was there to be questioned and interviewed. They were never meant to be offices or anything like that. So we made one into a medical room. So we have to supply a medical table that is in there. Our EKG machines are in there. So very limited space in those rooms. We have, and I know Ms. Beth Pafford has really talked to me about this here. We have no room for inmate classrooms or rehabilitation classes that the state offers grants for that we can get, but we do not have the facility space to do that. There's no rooms for religious meetings. Our ministers currently go into the cells to witness their inmates one time a week, because we do not have any place for the inmates to come out. We do not have a secured exercise pen on the outside. The exercise pens on the top are open where people can throw things over, and also it is visible to the public, which should never be. The public should never see your inmates, and the inmates should never see the public. We talked, I think this might get into your question here about the transport. We have no way at the current location to transport inmates safely to the courthouse. There is a safety concern for the inmates and the public doing the way that we're doing. We've had multiple inmates fall down the stairs. So we've had to take them to the emergency room. We've had some of them hurt pretty good. I mean, they're belly chained and leg shackled all together. So they're not catching themselves when they fall. I mean, they're going to fall once they go down. So,
And we also need to be concerned about our employees.
That is correct. There's no storage space for any of the jail or sheriff's department supplies. There is nowhere for the public and a lot of our patrol cars to park. We have parking issues that are there. People come to the jail to visit or do business there that on a court day you can't find a spot to park there. We talked about dormitory style housing. It's dangerous for our inmates and our employees because of the risk of fights and escapes. Just this last week, if we're ever going to have a fight, it's going to be in the annex. 9 out of 10 times, that's where it's going to be. There were 64 beds at one time that was in there. Then when the state reduced those back, we lost a lot of those beds. But that is the number one place of where someone goes when they come into a jail, because the other place is, that we have is where the problem people are that can't get along with somebody. This, as recent as this last week, we had a bad fight that is in there that sent one of our inmates to the emergency room. I've seen some of the worst beatings that I ever have in that annex dorm back there. The old side of the jail was built in 1959. We have sewer, water, and electrical issues on a weekly basis up there. There's no fire suppression system, sprinklers in the old side of the jail at all. Oliver, we had talked about what all the correctional officers had to do about the inmates that are out of county, about booking them in, booking them out, and doing things like that. Our correctional officers are responsible for the intake and release of each inmate that comes into jail, and they're also required to serve our inmates meals 3 times a day. Our correctional officers are responsible to get some inmates to the medical department multiple times per day for treatments. Correctional officers are also required by the Tennessee Corrections Institute to do perimeter checks around the jail and cell checks, checking each inmate in each cell and searching at least one bed every 45 minutes. We have 4 inmates that are on 4 correctional officers that are on a shift. One of those is a female that takes care of her female inmates, that helps book them and release them when they come in. So they're running wide open because they're doing that every 45 minutes and then trying to book in and book out. So you can see where extra work here causes us problems that are there. We've lost more employees in the last year and a half than we ever have my whole 18 years there because of this. I mean, they're stressed to the max. I mean, there's no stopping. Paperwork is out of control. Also, our correctional officers do medical checks on inmates who are in our medical cells that we have. Those checks can be every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes, every 45 minutes, or every hour. So that's what I got to report on this month.
Patrick, I hesitate to ask you this, but if the DA and the TBI came to you today and said, we want to do a drug roundup in this county, 40 to 50 people, what would you tell them?
Prior, I would have told them no. Today, I tell them, do what you got to do. I can't stop law enforcement to stop in our county because we don't have a jail to put them in. I mean, we just have to put them somewhere else. So we're back doing what we need to do. I think the judges are fixing to get back to where they were and roll on. I mean, we have been dealing with this since 2020. I think I'm correct on that. It was prior COVID. And we just can't keep doing what we're doing. So I've instructed my guys that if they have drug roundups, then we'll round them up and figure out a place for them to go.
So I think our jail cut, the bed cut down by TBI was in September of 2023.
By TCI? Yes, that is correct. We went from 102 beds to 52 beds, and all 52 are male beds, no female beds.
So we're going on a year and a half into this.
Of the 52.
Of the 52 beds.
Count.
What is the cost per day per inmate to house here?
Matthias had asked me that same thing back months ago, and Matt's office and my office has been with CTAS for them to do the study. We've been sending them information probably for 6 months. They last Thursday sent me another email needing some more information to do that. I didn't figure it would be this complicated to do, but I guess they're trying to get as close. But that's what I was telling Matthias and the mayor a while ago. You have to be careful. The way our budget works is our sheriff's department budget and our jail budget are supposed to be separate, but our jail budget and sheriff's department budget is intertwined. All of our overtime comes out of our sheriff's department budget. All of our uniforms comes out of our sheriff's department budget. Our capital projects, patrol cars, we have to have transport cars. So some of that is intermingled with my budget, the sheriff's budget, not the corrections. You follow what I'm saying? So you could take what all we had spent. We've always turned in money at the end of the year until this year. This year, that's not going to happen. So that'll sort of get you on some of the jail side, but just not overtime and your benefits, with your overtime, like your retirement, Social Security, and stuff like that comes out.
As far as correctional officers go, is it based off of how many inmates are there, or is it more based on the setup of the jail? One of the questions I've been asked was, when we got reduced, did that also lead to a reduction in correctional officer staff?
There is no formula, of my understanding, through TCI on how many correctional officers it takes for each inmate that is there. Where we get in trouble is where we've been for years. You have inmates had inmates in the basement. You had 2 sets of cells in the old part of the jail. Then you go to the annex. You got the main annex dorm, and then you got a maximum security cells that are over there, and then you got 3 holding cells. So that's a lot of up and down and running from end to end. That's why you'll see jails like y'all been told by the architect of where one of the correctional officers can sit and view in quarters all the way around them and see all of the inmates, which reduces the number of employees that you have to have. So it really depends on the layout of what you have that does that. And Larry is right about building up. If you have separate floors of a jail, then you have to have the same amount of correctional officers on each floor. And Sabrina was right. I did talk to her about multiple level jails are not good, because once a month we have to do fire drills. We have to do different drills with the inmates, which has to go outside. So usually in a fire, the elevators, you don't get in the elevator, so you have to use the stairs. So we would be coming down 3 or 4 stories if it had a basement on it to get them to the outside. So it's just things like that.
So there does need to be an actual fortified outdoor area just for fire drills.
Yeah, you'll have to have a exercise pen. That's a requirement to have.
Okay, so we couldn't use every square inch of property that's there. Plus, if we bought some more, I mean, it can't all be used for the building. There has to be some area at least for outdoor space.
That's correct. And you'll also want to include in that we had talked in the beginning about this is an impound yard, something where we can hold impounded cars. We're paying record services here. We have a contract with them that we pay on our drug fund seizures and stuff to keep them, putting them behind the jail. We don't want to junk up the back of the jail and have all kinds of vehicles back there and things like that. So we contract with our record companies here to hold those for us. So there are other things. Larry was talking about the jail up against the property line. Yes, there is a need for the security of it, but there's also a fire code on that a fire engine has to get all the way around the building. So our jail now, we'd have to open gates for that to happen, but we probably could get it around, all the way around it. It has to have a fire lane all the way around it.
Right.
So there's certain things that are in the standards that I don't, I'm not going to say I agree with every one of them, but that's the rules that we have to follow by in order to keep our certification.
Right. That was another question that was asked that has been floated around. I had the same opinion too. Why don't you do something like Arizona did with just having the GP medium Army tents and concertina wire, but that is in the TCI standards. They have to have HVAC, they have to have heat, running water, things like that. So unfortunately the tent and barbed wire option is not actually an option.
That's correct. We all know Sheriff Joe. A lot of y'all probably heard of him. I've read some stories about him that county has spent multiple millions of dollars on lawsuits for tent cities and all that other stuff. So I don't know anywhere in the U.S. that's probably a humane way of housing inmates.
Well, it was shut down a few years ago officially.
Yes.
Judge came in, federal judge, and shut it down.
And as the sheriff, I don't believe in. There's certain things that we have up there that our inmates get awarded with for good behavior. They get a TV. Well, the reason they get the TV is because we're required to we have to keep them informed on what's going on out in the community, either by newspaper or television. Well, we choose the television because of the fire hazard of having newspapers back there. We do give our inmates a coffee pot. We let them buy a coffee pot. They bring one coffee pot in there. Those are for disciplinary reasons. You'd be surprised that what trouble that keeps down by giving them a coffee pot back there. If they mess up, then we pull the coffee pot out and things like that. So to say that we're giving inmates from what I've seen of the jail drawings and stuff, a cushioned jail is absolutely false. There's nothing but block walls and what we had to have. And the numbers, and I think a lot of the public either has forgot or didn't know. We had a test done by CTAS that come down and looked at our numbers for the last 10 years. And they're numbers. I mean, they're hard numbers. They done a 30-year projection on what that number would be, because if you do a bond for 30 years, you wouldn't want to go in 20 years and have to start a new bond by adding extra beds or building another facility. That number in 30 years was 280. Am I right?
272.
Yeah. So
2024 was 249.
yes.
Just for males, it was 188.
So to come back to the 190, that's what the county commission decided to do, which is great. I'm not against that. If you're thinking that we're going to build a jail for what inmates we have here today, you're looking at probably 3 years for the thing to get built. If you started it today and move into it, I think we'd be right back under a plan of action. So as a taxpayer, I do not want to see that myself. I think I have an obligation to you to keep you informed, and an obligation to them to keep them some of the do's and the don'ts of what we need to do and what we don't need to do, because I don't want to pay for the thing for 30 years and then 20 years have to come back and build on, or 10 years they have to come back and build on. So there is some in planning there, and we can't argue with the numbers. I mean, they're straight numbers from our bookings. And we've all seen the influx of people that has moved here, and growth costs money. I'm just on one of those that nobody wants to spend it on, and I don't either. You know, I don't think our jail ought to be no Taj Mahal. And from the plans that I've seen, that hasn't happened yet. Now, we can argue over the number or location or whatever. just make sure you know about the classification of the inmates. That is something that you have to keep in mind, because you just can't build a 15 or 20 bed cell to put one group into. That will not work. And I would hate for us to build a jail in 3 years, and then the sheriff have to send inmates out to another facility and pay whatever the amount was then to house them with us with a new facility here. So those are things that we have to look at.
Sheriff, just in the past year and a half that we've been discussing this, have y'all noticed an increase in the difficulty of placing these inmates in different counties?
Yes, if it wasn't for Bedford County, we housed quite a few inmates there. If it wasn't for them, we would be in trouble. I mean, they pretty much took anybody that we have sent over there. Some jails say, they asked us why we're getting rid of them. Well, they're getting in fights with inmates. Well, no, we don't want them. I don't care what you're going to pass. We don't want trouble at our jail. And, you know, those counties are under no obligation to take our inmates, and they're taking a risk on getting sued, an inmate die in the jail for a reason, somebody get beat up in a jail, one of our inmates over there, and somebody kills them. I mean, they're liability issues to holding inmates for other counties. So, but those totals do not include any medical or anything. That's just strictly food and a bed.
How many of these jails where we got people in has 24-hour nurses and doctors like we do?
Some of them do. Most of them do.
Most of them, but not all of them.
Warren County, I don't think they do. We have some of them over there. Yeah, they don't have 24-hour nurses. Some of your newer jails that we have, of course, they're bigger jails, so they'll have them. The ones that we're housing in. A lot of counties don't have 24-hour nurses. We're very lucky that we do. It saves us a lot of money. We were paying medical bills left and right because we didn't have an EKG machine there of somebody saying they had a heart attack and wasn't. So.
I'm glad you brought up the jail report. So are we paying for all the inmates that are housed outside the county now?
Yes.
Okay, because I know in the report, they list inmates in other counties and an average of those that we paid for and did not pay for. We had an average of 9 paid for in 2022, 60, these are males at no cost, where they were negotiated with other counties. Those were males. Total, 10 we paid for on average, of average month, I guess.
Yeah.
And then 73 did not pay for, and in 2023, 9 every month we were paying for, and 66 we were not. And it says here, the sheriff estimated that the number of inmates housed in other counties has been consistent for years before 2022. So are we just no longer, I know you've talked about feeling bad about having them there, so did you decide that we were going to pay for them since?
What we done prior to the 52 bed, when we come down from the 102 to 52, we had other options about putting them in different cells or things like that. So that changed, of course, when we done that. And then the ones that we housed, like in Robertson County and places like that, were people that were either were charged with murder or a bad rape or something like that, that was a liability risk to hold there, or somebody we didn't have the place to put to control. We have no two-man cells that we can use up there for all of our bad people.
Right. And I also want to reiterate that the 240 some odd inmates projected into the future, was based on nothing changing with our current judicial system. The minute we start making changes, even with our court, and I'm not saying we got to do something about our jail, but our court system is not functioning effectively. We are working to move the elections office out. We've got to get an AC unit in there where it works. It's our county building. We have an obligation to take care of it. And when you have to shut down the courthouse for 2 months, that kind of backlogs the court system. So there are a lot of pieces to this puzzle. The jail's one of them. And as he pointed out, and he said, whatever jail we do, I expect there'll be classrooms there, because DeKalb County also has the highest recidivism rate of any county in this area. And so we're not doing anything but putting them in, letting them go, and arresting them again. And so there are a lot of pieces to this to consider and to work on, and that are part of making our justice system work better for everybody. Thank you.
One thing, like what Beth mentioned there, and there's 6 of us went down to Smith County and looked at their jail a couple of weeks ago. And like Patrick is saying, you can sit in their control room and you can see every prisoner in the jail and what they're doing in one spot. You can see all the men on one side and the women are all on the other side. So this, and in that jail also, in the secure area, they have a first-class kitchen. If they get an inmate who comes in who is a diabetic, they can prepare a special diet for them. They can take care of them like that. The female inmates do the cooking under the supervision of a correction officer in there. The men inmates do all the cleaning inside the jail. And they do have a room in their jail. It's back in the secure area. There's 14 chairs in there. And those chairs, they can do classes. They do GED classes. They do training classes for their inmates to help them to get a job when they come out of jail, so that they don't just go back to doing what they were doing. They actually have a job to go to. So they do have, on Sundays, they run 5 to 6 church services in that room. And they'll bring inmates in 14 at a time and let them do that. So they have some facilities there to do some things. And like Beth is saying, their recidivism rate is way down. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it, I think, is because they do training that we can't do because we do not have a place to do it. It has to be a secure place, and we do not have a place in our jail to do that. And as far as I know, we've never had a place in there that we could do that. Mm-hmm. The state will pay for the computers for them to use, but we don't have any place to put them. So we can't do programs like that until we get a jail. And when we talk about building a jail, we're not just talking about building jail cells. You're talking about building not a criminal justice center, but you're talking about building a building that you house the inmates in, you can train them in it, you can take care of them in it, and at the same time, it's a secure area. And Patrick mentioned the exercise yard in this. The exercise yard down there, they can go into the exercise yard. It is totally enclosed in concrete blocks. It has a screen across the top because when they first built it, they didn't have a perimeter fence. And they said people would come and they'd throw contraband over into their exercise yard, so they put screens across the top of it. So the inmates still get the sunlight, but since then, that stopped the contraband coming over. Since then, they have built a perimeter fence around it. So when we talk about building a jail, we're not just talking about building jail cells. You're talking about building a facility that, and you're not going to rehabilitate every inmate, but it gives us an opportunity to rehabilitate some of them and get our recidivism rate down, which then cuts down that number that Jim Hart gave us of 240 to 270. That enables us to cut that back down. So whatever we build, once we get the jail built, and we can start doing some of this training to help some of these inmates have something, instead of just going back on the street and going back to what they were doing before, then you cut your recidivism rate down, and Patrick is not rearresting them, if that makes sense.
And they
So that's
built-
part of the building for the future.
They built within, I think, their facility was 128, for 128 inmates, and they built, at the end of the hallway, a door that's an open access if they choose to build for the future. I mean, if that gets to that point, we can, I mean, that will be, but if you build on one level and make it safe, simple, and just, I mean, I hate to say sleek or whatever word you want to use there, but it was not, you walked in that door, I was really amazed from the time I've toured ours twice, and I toured that one, and Sheriff Ray knows that that's not my favorite tour, because we've talked about that, but I felt safe for the inmates, and I felt safe for the employees there. And it opened my eyes to say, we've got to do something because of our employees. I can't imagine. I can see why. I guess would be, I can imagine now why we've had a lot of turnover in the last year and a half in your staff after going there. About 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, was very eye-opening. Every box I went through here on your problems in the current jail facing, I wrote, the nursing facility, which is just, very manageable, but it's stuff that you have to have. Your small, it's a kitchen area, one simple classroom, and a sally port where you walk in, you pull in so that they don't see. Those are things that we struggle with. Every box here could be easily fixed with a small jet. I mean, when I say small, a manageable, maybe 150 to 120, 2125 to 150, and build that door that if we have to expand. But we can't build so large. I mean, our property, I mean, they've spoken and said they want us to build what we can do so that we can get their property tax back down. So get it to a manageable number.
And if we err and we build too small, hopefully we'll build it in a place that we can build on without redoing what we just did. If you spend $25–30 million to build something and you can't expand it at all, and then it's too small, and you've got to come back and add on again, you can't do it there. So what our goal is to try to do something so that you can just add on jail cells and not rebuild what we just built.
Do you know the square footage of what the one in Smith County was? So if you planned it, I mean, because... Okay.
No, I know, it was sitting on 14 acres.
I just wondered, the building, you take the building and you land it, you land it on these pieces of property with someone's vision. Not that has to be the building, but it is a one level if that's something. But that's the safest thing and the cheaper route. I think the one level for not having so much staffing for would be something that we could look at, these three properties and put them on the location that would be there, whether it be.
I did that a little bit at the office earlier today, and what I did was I took the perimeter fence, not just the building footprint, which was 660 by 900, and that footprint fits on both these properties easily.
And I mean, even on the Robinson Road where there's that water on the backside there?
It'd be on the backside, yes.
I'm anxious to see on the old specs of the Phase 2 and Phase 3, of course, those are dormitory-style jails. In our annex, we halved, if not over halved, lost our bed count back there. So I'm going to bet you on those Phase 2, Phase 3, it will be half or more beds that will be lost out of that, which means you've went behind the jail and took the veterans building away. That was the last phase. That was Phase 3, that was the veterans building. Then where do you go? I mean, that's
what I'm saying.
And you still don't have the bed space that you're supposed to have. The only way that look like you could do it is go up, which there again, you have reoccurring cost on that. So that's just my only thing about the downtown thing.
And that's the thing about it. If you build what you need downtown, you've got no place to expand it.
And I think part of that property in the back's in the floodplain anyway, especially the Webb property.
That part back there where the exercise area is free low. Anybody got any other questions for Patrick? Anybody got any comments? Any other commissioners? All right, public, you can come up one at a time. You state your name, your address, or your district you reside in, and tonight we'll give you 5 minutes. And you can ask us questions, and we will answer back, or we will try to answer them back. You know, hopefully, I hope we've cleared up a few things with the discussion with the sheriff, so that we're not just totally in the dark.
My name is Janice Claiborne. I live in the 7th District. I live beside Robinson Road. I've lived there for 48 years. And I would just like to say, which I know nobody's listened before, but there is over half this county older people that still owe for their home. And they're sitting at home tonight wondering if they're going to have a check in the mail for Social Security next month. I live on that street. I'm sorry, I'm just upset. But I live on that street. I've never been scared to live there till the last 2 years. And I have homeless people. I have people driving up and down the road, walking up and down the road for their drugs. They're living in the across the street in the woods. There are 2 factories down below me. There's 2 sets of apartments. There is Tracy Fouch fixing to build a bunch of homes right in front of that property. There is a trailer company. There is Texas Boot Factory. There is Walmart traffic. I have anywhere from 5 to 8 cars a day pulling in and turning around in my driveway. I've had to post a sign, and they're not paying attention to it, but we are covered up in traffic. It is day and night. And I wish y'all would think that over, because we have a lot of stuff going on in that subdivision, a lot of bad stuff. I come in 2 months ago and sat down at 10 o'clock and locked my doors the first time in 48 years. And as soon as I got set down, somebody had pulled my storm door with it bolted and twisted it all to pieces. So yes, we do have a problem. The city is up and down that street all the time, and I just feel like there's enough traffic over there. You get ready to pull out on Short Mountain, you have to sit there 5 minutes or longer because of all the traffic. And we're just covered up in traffic, we're covered up in homeless people, and we're covered up in people up and down the streets with drugs. Thank you.
Someone else? You raised your hand? Yeah, come on. Yeah, come on up to the microphone. No.
Paul Miranda, District 4. How many similar, I know you mentioned Smith County Jail, how many other similar jail sites have you visited that are comparable to what you're looking for? And how many committee members have gone physically to those locations?
One site, 6 of us.
One site, 6, so less than half of this commission. That seems abhorrently low for such a big decision. Of that one site, because I've looked at the other 3 that you guys have used as comparables. Monroe County, 19.64 acres. You mentioned Smith County, 14.8. Rhea County Jail, 10.4. Of those locations that you're using, including Smith Road, how many of them required you to drive through a residential neighborhood?
But
I'd say none, because I've looked at all the aerials. None of those three require you to drive through a residential area to get to them. So you're looking at one particular location that takes you directly through the middle of a residential area and has an entry and exit point close to a school. Is this committee familiar with the 2023 School Safety Legislation Act signed by Governor Lee? I know probably 2, maybe 3 of you do. Does the rest of the committee familiar with that?
I'm not, no.
Okay, that's the law that requires a number of things to strengthen school safety practices, which includes providing the template and for school safety, to include an annual physical safety and threat assessment of a school and the location around it. Is it this committee's opinion that a jail built within 1/2 mile direct line of sight of Northside Elementary School would potentially increase, decrease, or stay the same if the jail were built on Smith Road?
Where the jail currently is, we are just as close to the current north side as we are to on Smith Road. And when we build Smithville Elementary, where they're going to build it, we will be even closer.
The difference is direct line of sight and path. When you leave the current jail, plenty of ways to leave, which includes most likely down to Congress. And what do you see from Congress? You see a lot of bright lights to your south towards McMinnville. You see the gas stations, what potentially will be a Waffle House or Burger King. Not really sure what that'll end up being. Or you look the other direction and you don't see a lot of anything, and you certainly don't see the school. So the direct path for most people, I would argue, would go towards the light. And Sheriff Ray mentioned the types of releases it's not always time served. There's bail releases. There's sleeping it off, doing your time, becoming sober, and then wandering off again. Those people don't necessarily have a ride waiting for them. Let's see. Oh, in this decision-making process, since the jail site off Smith Road in particular has direct impact being so close to a school, has the county board or school board been asked for their input or opinions on this matter, especially with the multi-million-dollar expansion that's coming? That's going to be an increase in students, faculty, admin staff, and other school employees that they're responsible for oversight when that site's completed, because I don't necessarily see anybody from the school board that I'm familiar with. Okay. Have you conferred with them at least? It's a kind of an important decision when you're going to build a jail. The jail you currently have was built in 1959. So why are you wanting to recreate the same proximity to a school? That makes no sense. It's kind of like the idea of putting ball fields on your property. I think we already addressed that at the last meeting. That's ridiculous. Nobody in this room wants their kids on a ball field. That was an insult to people, I think. It really was. And lastly, Mr. Green, since you were the one that stated that downtown the current site has a more direct impact on residential than Smith Road. Do you know how many homes are within 1/2 mile of the current jail location?
No, I did not count those.
Then how can you make that statement with any accuracy? Because I can give you the number near what's proposed on Smith Road, and it's about 106. And that's not including the new development that's currently under construction. And I'll just pass on to that because the information was brought up about the West Main property and that development that all of a sudden just went off the radar. Maybe Mr. Luna could add insight to it, but that was under contract, ready to go, and then all of a sudden the rumor of a jail potentially being built comes up, and gone.
That's not what happened on that deal. We can talk about it. That's not what happened with that deal. We can discuss it later.
Why can't we discuss it in a public
Sure,
forum?
we can. So what happened on it, the contract said that the seller gets to pick the name of the road. The buyers did not like the name that the sellers picked, so we decided, as the seller, we backed out of the contract. Had nothing to do with the buyers.
it seems a little coincidental.
Had nothing to do with the buyers.
I'm just telling you, that sounds a little coincidental that that could be the technicality that allowed them to back out of the contract.
They lost a lot of money to get out of a contract, if that's the case.
Well, it just seems like we might have scared away 100-plus new residential homes. That's a revenue-generating source for the county and the city. That, again, timing is coincidental or a little suspect.
Just be fully transparent, they are trying to renegotiate that contract.
I'm sure they're
So they're
probably
not
waiting
done.
for the decision of this commission to decide whether or not they want to continue with that. I would if I'm investing money in it. So
I think one thing you have to look at too is, and residences are afraid of us building a jail in their community. And like the lady that spoke, when Ms. Claiborne spoke, you're going to have sheriff's cars going in and out of there all the time. You're going to have more presence of the sheriff in areas that may be crime-ridden. And right now, even with all the people who live in the downtown area, people are not concerned about the jail being down there because we have, I don't know how many, we have the Jamboree, we have several, City of Smithville has several different smaller festivals. We have the first Friday night shopping downtown. We have Boo Bash. We have the homecoming parade. We have numerous things downtown, and nobody seems to be concerned. Nobody stays away from them because we've got a jail down there. So if we build a jail into a residential area, would it not make sense that it might be safer because you've got sheriff's cars running in all hours of the night? The presence of the sheriff in that location?
coming from that background, I totally disagree with that statement. You don't necessarily have them coming and going all the time. Now, side point, this is a jail that you're looking to build, but is it also going to be the sheriff's station?
Is it going to be the sheriff's office?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's more than just a jail.
That's what we said earlier. It is not just the jail. It is the sheriff's
heard more.
office. It is the administration offices. It is the kitchen. It is the facility to help our recidivism rate. It is the facility of an exercise yard that is totally enclosed. So it's not just a jail. It is a place where hopefully you're going to rehabilitate some people so that they'll have something more when they come out of jail than they had when they went in. And I think Beth is right. If you read the police reports, we arrest the same people over and over. They go to court, they go to jail, and they come back out, and we put them back in court, and they come back to jail, and we put them back out. At some point, maybe, and it may not, and it won't work for everybody, but maybe you can help some people get out of that routine. But we can't offer that now because we don't have a facility to put them in.
I won't disagree that that is facilitated in other jails, but it's also probably in other jails that have larger budgets, bigger areas, facilitate that. It's not always, DeKalb's pretty small in comparison to some of these other places like Smith. Hey, if you've got the means and the budget for it, absolutely. But I think those problems start a lot more outside the jail.
Smith County is actually a little bit smaller than we are.
By how much?
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we're basically the same size.
So,
I was going by the classification of the school athletic programs. Smith County is a lower classification than we are. That's all I was going by, Randy.
so again, I'm gonna stay with the whole concept of why are you gonna recreate or do something that you don't see in other counties by building a jail and any other county complexes like you're talking about within residential areas near schools. There's probably a reason those counties chose to try and find locations away from those venues. And as I said before, this is a generational decision. I get it, you're looking to the future. But there's a need versus want and all these glamorous things you want to try and incorporate when a champagne taste on a beer budget doesn't fly. So, again, public safety, residential safety, school safety, on top of everything else, should be at the forefront. I think right away, this should have been a DQ, disqualifier, when you said, oh, look how close we are to an elementary school that's about to get a $55 million expansion.
Thank you.
So, can I say something, Larry, or are we just gonna?
Sure. Yeah, you can say something.
You've been on here longer than anybody, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
When Northside was built, did the school board come to the commission and ask for permission or ask anything like that?
That was before
So
my
to keep,
time.
so
I
to
don't
keep
know.
bringing the school board into these meetings is a little much. I believe they told us about the new one, stay out of their business, you know, they don't want to hear our input, so.
Okay.
I
And,
understand. I'm just pointing this out. Last week, it was come up that not another dollar should be spent until schools' safety and all this other stuff. We did our part. They've got 15 million in the savings, so they are responsible for upgrades and maintaining. I just want to please leave the school part out of this because it's two different projects at this point. Also coming from the same background, White County is in a residential neighborhood, surrounded all the way around by houses. Knoxville is setting, a huge place, sitting in the back of a residential neighborhood. It does happen. I am in his district. I'm his commissioner. Like I said earlier, that out of the two, that has more people affected than the Robinson. So if we're going to have to choose between 30, 40, 50 to 1, I'm going to choose the 1 over the more of the imposition to everybody. When inmates get released out of that jail, I would argue they go towards Family Medical Center because they were camped out down there in the woods, down by the bridge, for a long time. So they're not going towards town, they're going towards Northside Elementary. And Patrick, you can call me if I'm wrong, but I see them every day at the time coming up out from those woods and under the bridge. These are everyday problems that we have thought about. Originally, I didn't want it near none of y'all's houses. I wanted it out behind Busy Mart. But nobody liked that idea, and it cost too much money. So
okay.
now we're where we're at.
And, Annette,
My name's Annette Evans. I live on Smith Road in the 4th District. My concerns are just the safety within itself of having a jail in that residential area. We're not that far from the city jail and the county jail as it is. And then other than that, the traffic from the factories that's on Cookville Highway, that is a big problem. Far as like a lot of traffic coming through all hours of the day or night, and it's not at a low 30-mile-per-hour speed limit. They go at whatever speed they want to, especially like when they change shifts and all that. It's just a cut through for all the work for a lot of people that goes through Smith Road. If there's an incident that happens on Smith Road, say you're coming from east going west on Smith Road, and then the sheriff's department is coming from west going east. It's about 3 or 4 curves on that road. If you wasn't stopped, you're going to have a head-on collision. Because when they come up that road, they're not going at a low speed. They're zooming through that area. Is that right, Sheriff? And so the road is narrow. You barely got enough room to pass coming and going cars as it is. So, and then other than that, there's the water pressure thing by the school that's been built there. And now they're going to add an additional school in that same property. So there's a lot of things to be considered other than just the expansion of the schools, the expansion of building a jail. There's a lot of elderly people in that residential area. And their safety alone needs to be considered. So that's my main concerns.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Randy Rohde, and I live at 4887 Cookville Highway, and we'd like to thank each of you for your service and for finally having a public forum on this. You know, I've watched and listened to the commission and the mayor on this issue from the beginning, and I have been dismayed at how this jail problem has blown in such a huge controversy. This is certainly a big topic of conversation of many people that usually don't worry too much about local government issues. After listening to many people, I have found that their perception of the commission and the mayor's seemingly lack of caring for what the citizens want or think has now eroded the public trust in its local county government. To me, this lack of trust is now a bigger issue than the jail issue. Some people feel like they have been deceived, or there may be more questionable ethics at play. In hindsight, quality leadership and caring attitude towards the public would have helped, and a public forum was needed a year ago. Now about the jail issue, the topic that the citizens seem most dismayed with is why there has seemingly been no attempt to solve this problem at a low-cost option. They believe that you simply want a big project with a big price tag that frankly we cannot afford, that's not affordable. We are not an affluent county, and for you to stick a citizens with an extreme tax burden for a project that they do not want has resulted in their discontent and now a lack of trust. I believe the citizens want a low-cost solution that provide for our basic needs and not outlandish wants. Most believe that the low-cost solution is adding jail space to the existing site and the things that are needed, as Patrick talked about. With some of the good leadership and quality effort, this problem could be solved accordingly, resulting in restored faith in this government body. We need to be able to trust you. In the past, we have had leaders that were financially responsible, and this is what the community still expects and demands, as evidenced by the huge petition drive and the 85% vote against the bond resolution and the overbearing tax increase. Since the citizens clearly want a financially responsible solution to the jail problem without huge tax burden, my question is, where is the analysis of a low-cost option to fix the problem, which includes the needs and not the outlandish wants? Thanks for letting me talk.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe O'Connell.
Pardon?
I was hoping for an answer if we have one.
Well, I was wondering if you had a plan for it.
I'm not hired by the county.
Oh. Okay.
We want a low-cost solution so we don't overburden the tax.
So I'd like to be clarified here. So in the past history, we've had people be financially responsible when we've had people admit that nothing has been done to fix any of these problems prior. And that is the financial responsible that y'all want. We've had people say this should have been taken care of, phase 2, phase 3, 7 phases later, years ago. That was not done. They admitted nothing was done. And now the price is higher, and they are the people that were financially responsible. That is what you just say we are looking for. I've never in my life, you can't have your cake and eat it too. We can't do what, sir?
So you're for the high taxation?
I didn't vote for that. I couldn't vote for that because there was other stuff
What do you think we should
tied
do
into
with the
it.
taxation problem?
First, we need to solve the jail problem. If there is whatever, that will be given back. I think we've all come to that realization. There ain't nobody just wanting to keep your money.
That's the purpose, I think, of this paper here that you all have in front of you. It's a guideline to hopefully be able to figure out how to get some resolution.
No, what this is $28 million, and if it ain't under that, we are financially irresponsible, we are wasting money. We are not trusted no more by the people that we elected. So that's right. Okay, so let me point out something to you.
I'm sorry, Greg. I'm going to have to intercede
Hold
here for
on.
just a moment, if you
Okay,
don't
go
mind.
ahead.
So the distrust is with the commission, but the trust is with somebody that can throw numbers on a piece of paper without having a financial advisor or an architect or an engineer. So what financial institution, hold on, let me speak for me. What financial institute, yeah, so where are there multiple bids on this? Where's the architect? Who come up with the $28 million and how is that even?
I will say this. and
So
I'll be
you
quiet.
spoke.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will
Hold. We're not getting
gladly
anything
take
here.
advice from you, from anybody else out there that's got advice. I will gladly listen. But for anybody who got upset as a commissioner and stormed out of here and quit, I don't have ears to hear what they got to say. I mean, I do.
He's
A
talking
lot
about the
of
two
other
people
county
that come up
do
with
too.
this is a commissioner that couldn't even make it through his term and an election worker.
I know that's nothing, y'all. I'm just saying.
okay, we've got a person at the podium. Let's give him the floor.
Hey, it's Joe Connell. Good evening. I told my wife I'd kind of behave myself tonight, so I'm going to keep professional here. But anyway, I'm not really a good public speaker, but anyway. I was watching my History Channel, and my wife was next to me on the other lazy boy chair, and I overheard, she was on the WJLE or whatever the thing, Facebook thing. I overheard someone say up here that over by Robinson Road, we're already used to all the noise from the factories. Who was that?
It's between two factories?
Between the two factories, people that live around there are already used to the noise anyway. Tonight, yeah. Okay. So I live at 132 Doe Lane, District 7, off Foster Road. I try every morning to wake up, drink my coffee on my front porch. AAA, that system they have over there is so loud, it's deafening to the ears sometimes, depending on where the wind's blowing. Every day, that factory is blowing out so much noise, okay? We've got potential of having a jail or whatever is gonna be going on between them two, but like, how often do you sit out on your porch and hear deafening noise already where you live? So you're used to the noise too, and you don't like it, do you? And also, I was kind of fact checking a little bit. I've never been there. I've never been to jail, but Knoxville, there's not really the county jail over there in Knoxville. I looked it up just on Google. There's like a river next to it, and then a bunch of buildings around it. It's not behind a residential area. But anyway, so what I'm trying to get at is, I don't really think it's right to have it right by Robinson Road where the corner of the three-way stop is. There's not a lot, someone said that there's not a lot of houses or not a lot of impact over there, but there is. Cooper Lane, like half a mile from there, Cooper Lane, all through there, all these residential areas through there. You got kids staying at the bus stop, like 10 kids every morning on school days at the bus stop, if the bus is running, okay? You got kids standing there, okay? We've already got a lot of people at night. Where I live off Doe Lane, I can see Foster Road. I can see people walking, and like, I don't know what they're up to. I don't care, you know what I mean? As long as they stay off my property. But we've already got a lot of traffic going on that we never used to have. Sure, we do need a jail. A new jail, I guess. I mean, but we also need new schools for our kids to learn in. I mean, better schools than what my kids went through. I have 3 daughters that went to Smithville Elementary, and I've done work there, and I've seen mold all throughout the ceiling. I don't know if y'all have fixed that or not, but there's still kids going to that school. We need new school. And that would kind of help the jail situation because kids would be educated better in a better environment. But honestly, there's already so much going on over by Robinson Road, not towards the county side, but there's so many houses all through there. Miller Road, all them, everywhere through there. What's the policy on, like, if they need to rush to the jail? Like, are we gonna hear sirens, like, all the time throughout the night? I mean, that's more noise at us. I mean, like I said, I'm not good with public speaking, but I told my wife I'd be professional up here, so I appreciate everybody's time. I just know that would not be a good spot off of Robinson Road for a big complex like that, because I mean, we're already dealing with the stuff that's going on with AAA, with their big noise, 24 hours, 7 days a week. I think Sunday evenings is the only time that we don't have the noise over there. And I'm living like on Doe Lane, so it's like probably a quarter of a mile away. I just imagine the people on Robinson Road already hearing it all the time right in their face. So it's like, anyway, you guys are going to build it where you want to build it. We're going to pay for it. It is what it is. But thank you for Patrick Ray and for, keeping our county safe and doing your thing, man. I mean, God bless you. You deal with a lot of stuff that people don't know about, and, but anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Jonathan Bradley. I'm in the 2nd District, and I want to start off by saying I really appreciate Commissioner Green taking the time to talk to me after the meeting last week and try and let me understand it from his point of view. This is a tough issue, right? And I told you after our discussion I needed a little time to process it. My brain works better if I can kind of run things over. And I still come back to the same thing that I was thinking last week, which is the most important thing y'all can do. It's not necessarily where it is or how many beds it is. It's trying to do the most economical answer for this county, right? Like, everybody here knows our county's not wealthy. Everybody here knows we got an awful lot of retired people on a fixed income. Everybody here knows how tough that property tax increase was. But it seems like there are only a couple of voices on the commission that are really hearing the public's pain on this. And I know this is tough, and I know this has to be solved, right? But I do have some questions about some of the numbers. Some of them just don't make sense to me. And use small words and speak slow, because I'm explain it to me like I'm dumb, because that would help me. But we have 52 beds right now, is that correct? And we have 19 people in other jails, and we have 7 people with ankle monitors. So that is 76 people right now, 76? But we're trying to build 192 beds? Come on, y'all, that's 3 times as many. I know that there's been a lot of mention of Smith County's jail, and it's new. There's good stuff for everybody. It's safer for the sheriff's employees. We can do the thing where we categorize everybody and separate them all out, and there's the ability to train and bring that recidivism rate down, so we have less people going back to jail. But that jail has 128 people in it, right? And our county is 3% larger than Smith County. I looked the numbers up today, y'all. 3%. So if you do that rough math, we should have maybe 135 beds if we're trying to go big. You know what I mean? again, I know this problem has to be solved. I know that the current jail is totally unacceptable. I get it. And I know it's not y'all's fault. The can got kicked. This is where we are. And this is what we have to fix. This is what y'all have to fix. And, I just really, really hope you guys will investigate every single option. Like, don't let where the plan comes from blind you to whether or not it's good. Don't let your own ego about, hey, we started this and this is what we're going to do, or we don't want to do it at this spot, or we don't want to do it in that spot, stop you from doing what's best for the whole county. And if that means that we need to spend a little money, have an architect look at some plans to try and figure out what the best answer is, then come on, y'all, like, do it. Spend a penny to save $1, right? Like, to me, that's real common sense. The only other thing I kind of wanted to ask about this, and this is just like really because I'm curious. So I know that certain inmates can be put in the general population, and then some of them have to be put in different places, right? So what percentage of inmates cannot go into general population, just as a guess?
It depends on if they're sex offenders or,
Fights or whatever?
Yes.
Right.
Your classification of inmates.
So if you had to guess, like, what percentage couldn't be in general pop, like had to be isolated or in the two-man cells or whatever, what do you think that percentage looks like?
I don't know, yeah.
Is it like 50?
Jonathan, I've got.
Probably not.
Less than that?
Yeah.
Okay, so, that might be good information for us to have. I'm sorry, thank you. That might be good information for us to have. And it might be good to think about, my big point, it's not in the details. You guys figure out the details. Y'all been working on this for a year and a half. But I think the public is really screaming out that this has to be the most affordable answer for right now. And I understand from some of y'all's comments that you're trying to solve this problem for the next 50 years, right? Like, you're trying to fix this for moving forward. This county doesn't have the budget to fix one thing for the next 50 years. When our schools need to be fixed and our roads need to be fixed and our EMS building isn't big enough and all the other stuff we're dealing with. And that's not y'all's fault. It's just where we are. So, like, I beg of you, like, please come up with the solution, not the solution for right now that we're going to have to fix again in 10 years, but with the most economical solution that really takes into consideration that this is all of our money. Like, this is the public's money. Please. That's all I got. Thank you very much.
So,
Greg?
I'm gonna try to answer some of his questions. The numbers we got was prior to COVID from the sheriff and from CTAS. Those numbers then wasn't 50 inmates, 100, y'all had 105 roughly average males in y'all's jail a day before COVID. Y'all had an average, I think, of 30, give or take, females in y'all's jail a day. So we're looking at 130 to 140. I don't know exact numbers. So to say now that we only hold 50, so we need 70, we're not even getting back to what we did have. Sooner or later, and I'm sure he's probably watching this, our judge is going to get tired of putting everybody out on probations and letting all these same people go that everybody's complaining about week after week. We're going to have a place to put them. And I'm going to tell you, I'd rather every criminal be in a jail than walk in a street. There ain't no hug-a-thug in me. I'm not love them to Jesus. I'm not the rehabilitation is the way to go. If you're going to do good, you're going to do good. If you're going to do bad, you're going to do bad. But the numbers you just mentioned is after COVID. We're having to go.
Like, that's my understanding. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but like, it's my understanding that, like, those are the numbers right now. Like, right now, we have 70 people. So,
Right, and so on page 11 of the jail thing, Greg, in 2012, our total was 112, average. 2013, 110, 2014, 90, 2015, 88, 2016, 97, and then in 2019, it was back up to 103, and then in 2020, it dipped way down because of COVID. And then in 2022, we came back up to 83, then 71, and then I think after that, we've had the reduction in
So those numbers were
2023.
103 for 2019, total, not males, then females, not males, and the 20 that's
Right.
out of the county, those are 103 inmates.
Right, average
Yeah.
daily population for the year, male and female.
Your Patrick answered.
Yeah, now, what you have to be careful looking at that, if you are planning on getting revenue from the state, those numbers don't have that in there. As soon as somebody gets a state sentence, we send them out as quick as we get the paperwork because we don't have the place to house them and didn't have the place to house them back then. So some of those, at that time that they done that study, if you remember, Jim Hart left out some that were housing in other counties that was mistakenly left off. So it's not going to matter that much on those, but it will on your state inmates because, like I said, we've not held state inmates any longer than we had to for years because of the overcrowding issue.
Yeah, I'd seen someone had mentioned that. Someone had made a comment that we wanted a bigger jail to try to get more money, and Sheriff Ray brings up a good point. Until someone is convicted, it is on the county's dime to pay for their incarceration if they're not eligible for bail. Once they are convicted, if they get convicted of an offense that can be served in a Tennessee jail, at that point the state will reimburse the jail if they house them. But currently, and for a decade or more, we've not done that simply because we don't have the space. And I'd also found an article from October 26, 2019, state gives county ultimatum on jail. This is the first article that I found that kind of started all this, I guess, 5 years ago. But even at this point, we were at basically a full capacity, and at that time we also had, I just lost it, I think 8 inmates at that time were also out in other jails as well. So the size, the 102, even 5-6 years ago, was not the size that we needed for the average inmate population. So this is, it seems to me that this is something that's been going on for a while, more than 5 years, having to outsource to other jails. So that's just something to consider. The other question I wanted to address too was the residential areas. That's something I'm certain everyone is against. Nobody wants, a new jail going near their home. The issue here is the sheriff by law is in charge. He's the boss of the jail, so to speak. There's also a state law that says the sheriff's office has to be in city limits. So that's the issue we run into here, is trying to find enough land that's within city limits to build the jail, because the sheriff's office will be there and it has to be in city limits. So it was mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we've looked at a lot of properties and we're still looking at them. There was one on the corner of, was that 70 and Allen's Ferry, that's up away from everything. I don't think there's a house within a half mile of it. It is close to the high school, but with trying to put everything in city limits, unfortunately, it's, everything's going to be close to a school. That area that we looked at was not in city limits. There's also a lot of additional costs. If it were to be annexed, we would have to pay for a sewage line to be run, things like that. So that's really a lot of what the difficulty of this situation is can we find one that's away from neighborhoods, that's within city limits, or could be annexed into city limits? Does it have the sewage, the water, the electric, things like that? So it's definitely not been an easy decision. I think we're all definitely willing, to get feedback from the public. And I'm thankful for everyone that came out. There was a town hall meeting just like this a year ago. It was March 18th of 2024. I was not a commissioner at that time. It's my understanding that not a lot of people came out. From what I've seen, the opposition to all this is the tax increase, which I totally get. as a commissioner, I'm not exempt to property taxes either. So, like I said, there's a lot that goes into this. I definitely appreciate everyone coming out. As far as numbers go, I've run a lot of numbers on this. If anyone has any specific questions, I'd love to answer them. I did a poll on Facebook. I think a lot of these have been addressed. The number one question as far as percentage of votes, 19% of that vote was, will this raise taxes again? So that this, well, I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this. So in October of 2023, the county put out an RFQ, a request for qualifications, and we had several builders and architects basically send proposals to us. At the end of the day, the cost for their services ended up being the same. It always ends up being a percentage of the total construction cost of what you finalize. For the architects, for the builders, same kind of thing. We had selected Bell Construction because they were the only company that said, we're going to give you a number. If it goes over that number, we cover the cost. So that was, a safeguard for the county. So as far as finding an architect and a builder, an RFQ was done. Bids, I guess, so to speak, for those services were put out, and those were the two companies that were selected. The issue we run into with the design element, which was one of the first things that I said, was, well, let's look at the actual specifics of it. That cost just for the architect was not money that the county had on hand to do at the time. So that was going to be all rolled into that $65 million bond. The $65 million estimate was a not to exceed cost. So they basically said, if you want 190 beds as a justice center, we can guarantee you it will not exceed $65 million. So that's where that number came from, and that's where the tax increase this year came from. So I guess the short answer, will this raise taxes again? No. Whatever we decide to do here, unless it is more than $65 million, it will not raise taxes. And I think we're all hopeful that it would, whenever we actually get costs finalized, it would lower taxes comparatively to where they are now. As far as the bids go, regardless of what company we use as the architect or the builder, every step of the way the construction costs will be bid out. So the first thing I'm assuming would be survey work. Who's going to do the survey? So we would have all the different survey companies give bids. Purchasing committee selects that. Then it would be the dirt work. Who's going to do the foundation? Who's going to do the brick? All of that is bid out every step of the way. The biggest question is really at this point is going to be the overall, well, the bed count. We would need to come to, I guess, a new agreement. Originally it was agreed upon 190 beds. Once we had an agreed upon bed count, then we would get with an architect. They would design it, and then based on that design, I think the builder would be able to give us a better estimate. But that's kind of where we're at with that. Current location, what's wrong with it? As was mentioned before, to get the amount of beds that we were looking for, and get the separation needed, the minimum square footage per inmate. The architect came back and said, you can do it, but it would have to be 4 stories. And that was where we got that $55 million cost I think I'd mentioned earlier. Let's see, what else? Will the committee get several quotes? Yes, as I just explained, all the quotes and the bids would be made public as they came through. There's a couple other questions on here that overlap. I think I got a few of the last. Did Joe or Jonathan have anything else maybe I've missed that I could answer? I've got my spreadsheet here. And I'm happy to share these numbers with anybody that would like them.
Stephen's wanting to say something.
Stephen?
Died.
There it is.
Oop. Now it's live. Steve Cantrell, District 5. I've heard a lot of people speak tonight, and unfortunately, I've heard a lot of people merge issues. The issue before this commission, and it's at taxpayers' expense, is we need a jail. Whether you like it or not, we need a jail. We can talk about the number of prisoners in the jail, but let's be realistic. If you've been reading the Smithville Review, or WJLE, you'll notice one thing is a lot of the prisoners get out on bond or time served, and then before you know it, they're back in. As far as the school children, these people are back in your community. People that should be in jail. I had the privilege with the Leadership to Cab program to be up on the Tennessee Capitol Hill. When the Senate passed a bond, which I hope doesn't go through, which will be for certain criminal acts, no bond will be provided, and the people must be jailed immediately. Some of the senators who were opposed to that highlighted the fact that the counties can't afford to start building new jails everywhere. But the problem is, as was highlighted, this has been kicked down the road a number of times. It's a bitter pill to swallow. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got to compartmentalize this. We need a jail. We've got a commission that has been looking. They've heard us. The Justice Center disappeared. But what they are trying to do is build a jail that can be expanded in the future if need be for additional cells. I just moved back to DeKalb County from one of the richest counties in Northern Virginia. You want to talk about tax rates? But the jail they have, that's run by the sheriff's office, has a lot of the things that they're talking about here, and they are not having as many repeat offenders, which means the impact on the community goes down. But ladies and gentlemen, I've been very frustrated as I've heard the arguments about the community. I mean, the jail's going to go someplace, if not next to you and your property. I mean, I volunteered after talking to my nephew. I talked him into saying, let's make the Main Street property available with an understanding there would be a road that could go back and put it away from the homes. I did that because of the other properties that I saw being offered. I pulled that property back one time because one of the commissioners made a comment, a derogatory comment, that I was just trying to sell property. I've never planned to sell that property and had told my nephew he doesn't get till he's 45. But the issue here is we need a jail. And we need a jail that's going to house the prisoners. It is an expanding population. Today's numbers are false. Go read the paper and see how many people Judge Cox and the others have put out on their own recognizance, have put out on straps with their legs, or have given time served and let get out. These people are trying to solve the problem. They need to hear your voice, but they need to hear a voice that's going to help them decide how to solve the problem. The only voice that's not here tonight, because he's still recovering, is Tom Chandler's. And I wish he were here, because I may not agree with everyone up here, but I will agree with what they're trying to do. They're trying to give us a jail that is going to meet the needs of this growing county. We talk about it being a small county. There is a population growth in this county, and it's a criminal population growth. The criminals are saying, hey, we found a place where it's great. You get arrested and you're out shortly thereafter. Look at your Smithville Review. How many of those names have popped up over and over and over again? We're trying to solve a problem here. They're trying to do it as economically as possible. And for Mr. Green, I really appreciate the fact that you did welcome us in to be able to ask questions and get answers. Unfortunately, I've already gotten all my answers from you in the past and from the other committee members. But let's try to compartmentalize this, okay, ladies and gentlemen? We've got to have a jail. Let's come up, if you've got constructive ideas on how we can do it to meet the requirements. Don't give the false assumption that our population is not growing. Let's figure out how to do that and provide those to Mr. Green. But all I'm asking you is, let's work with these people to get the solution we need. And I voted against the bond. So it's not that I'm in for tax money. So thank you to everyone, both the audience and the commissioners.
Thank you, Stephen. Others?
Hi, I'm Jody Miranda, District 4, and you guys keep talking about suggestions. Has anybody looked at the transfer station property? And if not, why not?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what property.
The transfer station property. You have 15 acres owned by the county,
Oh, okay.
okay? The jail has to go in the city limits, that's in the city limits. The transfer station doesn't have to go in the city limits, it can go anywhere. And I can guarantee you it will not cost as much money to move that transfer station as it would to buy a 1.5 million piece of property, $2 million piece of property. Why are we not looking at the transfer station? It's away from residences, won't affect anybody. It backs up to a creek and a nursery on the other side of the creek. Not near a school. Can somebody answer why we're not looking at that?
I guess because we'd have to build a whole new transfer station.
But is anybody doing it?
We did look at it,
And
we decided it was not a good place to build it. The transfer station has to be expanded, and it looks like it may have to be expanded to handle our growing garbage problem. Then the only place to go is where that property is that you're talking about.
there's no other place a transfer station can go in this entire county and city. Nowhere?
I mean, I think we'd have the same issues we would the jail, just finding a location.
But the jail is having a lot of problems because nobody wants it in their
Nobody wants a
area.
transfer station next to them.
I think that's pushing it. I've got a county road yard right near me. Doesn't affect me one bit. I'm just saying, you guys are asking for suggestions. Here's one for you to look at. Thanks.
Others?
My name is Mike Claiborne in the 7th District. I understand that
Can you get a little closer to the mic, Mike?
being a commissioner is a thankless job. No matter which way you go, you're going to go the wrong way. But I think the concern of most of these folks that are here tonight is that we mentioned months ago about a justice center. And it was voted down, and nobody wanted it. The first thing that you got to do to have a justice center is have a jail. This man is working with all he's got. And I think most folks are scared that this is just a back way in of getting a justice center. And they're scared to death of another tax increase. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. I have no axe to grind with any of you guys. I have kinfolks here, I have friends here, I have neighbors here. But I think if you ask these folks, that would be what's on their mind. That they're being fooled, we'll get a jail and that'll be it. And they say, no. The next thing will be new courthouse, new courtroom. We've already got a beautiful courthouse. All it needs is to be taken care of. And right now, it's not being taken care of. And I want to say this, and I sit down. The last tax increase I don't believe anybody realizes how many widows and poor people there are in this county that all they have is their house, and their taxes went up. Social Security didn't go up. They're not making any more money. We've been told that there won't be a tax increase. And I think that we should have your commitment to all these folks, to anybody listening, that there will not be another tax increase, not for my sake, but for that little man or that little woman that's drawing $1,000 a month. Now, when they go to the grocery store, bread is still costing them just as much as it does me. Eggs, let's don't even talk about eggs, up nearly $9 a dozen. Things are going out the top. So please commit to this county. Not, like I said, not for my sake, but for the sake of the folks that just can't handle another tax increase. And like I said, I know that you guys and gals, man, I wouldn't have your job for all the money in the world. And there's got to be a decision, but let's make the best decision. And if we do have to have some kind of tax increase, I would beg you to put some kind of provision in there, some kind of cap, that if you make less than so much money, that this will not influence you. Thank you very much.
Mike.
Yes.
Last year, we did freeze taxes.
Okay.
For the people in a certain income with a certain
Okay.
property level. So we
Yeah.
did freeze those taxes.
That's great, and I applaud you for doing that.
So they were not affected by the $2. They were not affected by this last tax increase.
And there are forms they have to fill out, though,
Yes.
and they have to
There
fill
are-
them out
there are
every year,
restrictions.
so.
And John Driver has those. Anyone else want to address us from the podium?
My name's Kathy Slager, and I'm from District 1. I was going to say something about the Smith County Jail, but I'm not going to do that anymore because the other gentleman took care of that for me. In a county commission meeting on June 29th, 2024, Mayor Adcock said, and I quote, "You can't let people out here who don't have any idea what the situation is to make the decision for you." Well, here we all are. We're trying to help you, so please listen to us. Additionally, Commissioner Green said in a county meeting just last week that we're all uninformed. I think that you've heard us, we're not uninformed. And at another county meeting that I attended, that my husband and I attended within the last few months, Commissioner Chandler also said we're uninformed. I take offense to that because everyone here tonight doesn't sound uninformed to me. Everyone's done all their homework. We've done research. We've attended several meetings the last year. We've read everything on WJLE. I've done research on the Smithville Review. We've researched the articles. We don't have college degrees, but we do have common sense. We know when we have money and we don't have money. We don't spend it if we don't have it. I don't like speaking in public, but here I am, because this is so important. It affects everyone in DeKalb County. And even though I've heard earlier tonight, don't talk about what your grandchildren aren't going to pay, but it does trickle down to our grandchildren. And I would hate to see them punished for the actions taken by the commission, because it's going to be 20 or 30 years that they're going to have to pay for it, because we'll be gone. You all know the bond was defeated by a majority of 85%. All of you work for all of us, and most of you aren't listening to us. Why aren't you listening to the very people that voted to put you in those seats? How many times do we have to come here and tell you we don't want this? And even though I know, listening to him, it seems like we might need it, but listen to what we're saying. We used to tell our children no. No means no. We voted no back in November when we voted against the bond, and I heard Matthias a while ago say something about $65 million, and it could cost more than that. Well, we voted no on that, so sorry. We don't want a criminal justice center, and I know that's not what this is about. It's about a jail. We can't pay for it. But there's one thing all of us in this room can do. In 2026, when election times comes, and every one of your seats is up for re-election, we can vote no then. One question I do have. Are we gonna call it a jail now and build later and call it a justice center?
I want to address one thing she said. Commissioner Green has never said the public is not informed in a meeting. I've never said that in a meeting, that the people are not informed. And this is not a backdoor to build a criminal justice center. If the commissions down the road feel like they need one, they can build it. The county, the courthouse is not regulated by the state. The state regulates jails, schools, and I just lost my brain. Jails, schools, and
Well,
It's three things.
they regulate jails, and that's what we're talking about, so we can keep it at jails, but. But yeah, 65, just to clarify, the 65 million was us picking a justice center. 65 would have been the max cost. They said it will not go above that cost. If it does, the construction company doing it would pay for it. I'd also gotten a question why, if it was voted down, why didn't the tax rate change? So counties have to set their budget in July. We set the budget based on that $65 million bond, which is why we had the tax increase. 2 months later, it was voted no. The problem is with the tax rate is you cannot go back mid-year or 2 months into the year and lower your tax rate. It's not, the state of Tennessee does not allow that. There are certain situations and emergency situations where a county can increase the taxes mid-year, but there is no situation where they will allow you to lower it. So that's why the $65 million, tax increase, the 51 cents, that's why it stayed. That's why it was applied this year. I may or may not have mentioned it earlier. Will the tax rate go up? No. If we picked a jail to build today, it would most certainly be less than 65 million because the Justice Center is simply a jail and courtrooms. So not having a Justice Center and just having a jail means just a jail, no courtrooms. That's the difference between the two. I think that was it to address what she had just said, but.
Okay, Judith.
Hello, my name is Judith Hill. I'm in District 5, and I've just got some questions. So, you guys keep talking about with the number of people that have come into our county, and you're talking about the crime and all that going up, and that's, I understand that. But what about the people that have moved into our county? Where's their tax money? I mean, have we not increased in that also?
Our revenue has increased some because of the new houses.
There's a lot of new houses, though, and I understand that it's probably not enough, but you would think that it would be some more than what we feel like we're hearing. I guess we feel like that we should be hearing about more money, revenue coming in than what we've got. What about a workhouse where Is there any thought of that, to where criminals could pay their own way?
Yes, yes. I spoke to the sheriff about that about a year ago when I had started. That's definitely an option. There's kind of two different ways you can go about it. You could do what you just mentioned was a workhouse, which would be an actual a jail with some sort of revenue generating capability, whether it be a organic garden or someone had mentioned stamping license plates, things like that. You have that option to build in a county. The other option too that we had discussed was a pay to stay plan, where inmates would have to pay to stay. They would pay, a daily rate, cost of uniforms, food, things like that. There's kind of two issues with that. I mean, it's definitely something I'm more than happy to vote yes for. One is they can only be charged once they are convicted. So if someone was to be arrested and stay in jail for, let's say, a month, and then they go to court and they're found not guilty, they would not be liable for their pay to stay, if that makes sense. The other issue too is from the counties that I'd researched that have done that, what percentage of people actually pay that is pretty low, and there's some state laws about, can you put it on their credit report, things like that. In my opinion, either way, even if only 10% of the people paid, that's 10% more than what we had, so I'm all for it. But yes, both of those are definitely options. I support both of them. The only issue, of course, with a workhouse would be, if we're going to, if it's going to be manufacturing, that's something we would have to look at as far as building, a warehouse or something like that. But no, I agree. That's definitely, those are definitely two good options to at least offset some of the cost. It's never, I don't think we're ever going to get in a position to where we'll have inmates doing things to where, running a jail is going to be a net zero or a positive. But yeah, anything that offsets the cost, I'm totally for.
I think maybe utilizing a building that's not being used right now could be a workhouse or something along those lines. But have you looked to see how many counties in Tennessee actually have workhouses versus counties that do not?
I don't know if I compared them.
I think that I looked that up, and there was only 3 counties is what it said on the internet.
Okay.
Rutherford County's got a workhouse.
Do you know what they do there?
DeKalb, Bedford, there was 3. Polk, DeKalb, Polk, and one more.
Do you by chance know what work they were doing?
I don't. I was just curious.
So Rutherford County, I'm sorry, Judith, go ahead.
How many quotes have you guys got for the bid on the new jail? How many different quotes?
We haven't sent anything out yet.
Yeah, so
we haven't sent out a request for bids.
How many did you get on the Justice Center and the jail then together?
We have not sent out any requests for bids.
So what was the 65?
Because we did not have a finalized price. We had an estimated price.
So, but that was just from one person?
That was just an estimated.
But just from one?
So that was based on, so the company that provided the estimate looked at the architecture's renderings for 190 beds. Bell Construction was currently, I think they just finished the Putnam County Jail. As I mentioned earlier, that was the one company that did offer a max cost cap to where they would guarantee us, and I'm obviously assuming to safeguard themselves, they're going to bid it really high. They're going to say, if you want 190 beds, at most it's going to be $65 million. If we go over that, we cover the difference. But that was the one that was the one that was selected about 1.5 years ago.
But you don't know if anybody would have bid less than that, enough to have made a difference if you only got the one quote, I guess.
If we have an estimate, let's say we have an estimate from an architect, and let's say just ballpark figure, let's say $40 million. That's what they estimate. When we finalize the drawings with the architect, we send out the bids. If those bids come in at $30 million, that's what you borrow.
So you don't get but one of those?
Right. No, you get more than one bid. You can send out as many bids you want. They will all have to be qualified by the state of Tennessee to bid on a project.
But you
like
don't
this.
get but one estimate?
you can get one estimate, but all you're doing then is you're trying to get a plan, and you send, once you finalize exactly what you want in the jail, send it out for bids to the contractors, and you might get 5 or 6 bids, or you may get more bids than that.
So you guys raised the taxes on what you got, but you didn't know exactly what you needed.
So
In order to issue bonds, you have to approve up to a certain amount of bid. So and you have to be able to finance that.
So the plan was, so I think the way that I thought about it was, if you were to move here and you said, hey, I want to build a 3,000 square foot house, and you looked at all the general contractors in the area, and they all cost exactly the same. So we'll just say, for instance, they say whatever the end amount is, I charge 5%. So if it's a $500,000 house, I get 5% of that. But there's one contractor that said, I charge 5%, but I can guarantee you, when I give you my initial estimate based on what you're wanting to build, it's not going to go higher than what I say. Regardless of the contract you pick, every step of the way they get with you and say, okay, we need dirt work. Who's going to do the dirt work? Here's all of your options. And then all those companies will send in bids, and you pick the one you want to do it. So as far as the, who gives us the estimate, that all really doesn't matter that much because the materials are all bid out, and the cost for each step of the construction process, it would all come in the same way. They all have to be bid out, and the purchasing committee has to pick, which contractor to use. The other benefit of Bell was, because they were currently in the process of the Putnam County Jail, they were more familiar with what are those costs. What is the cost of, loads of gravel in this area, or electricians in this area, things like that. There's a good bit of companies that build jails, and a lot of them sent in their information when they put out the request for qualifications. But Bell was the one that was selected, and I think that was a big part of it, was simply because they were currently building a jail one county over. So I feel like they would probably have a good idea of what the current costs of everything were. But again, it would be, here's our max cost at $65 million. The intention there was, okay, we have the tax funding to fund the worst case scenario. Then we would get with the architect, finalize all the plans, and then the bidding process would start. It would undoubtedly come in less than that, but there's enough to cover it. What you don't want to do is underbid it and say we passed the tax. Say if we had passed the tax to a 25-cent increase, it's like $30 million. We start going through the process, and then in December we realize, well, it's going to be 35 or 40 million. Then you cannot do anything. You can't issue bonds. You cannot continue construction basically until the next July, where you have to then raise the revenue again to be able to fund the rest of the project. So that's I guess the reasoning why you go with that max bid, is to make sure that you have the funding for worst case scenario. But in reality, it would be significantly less. It would be less.
I guess I feel like we just have not had any options whenever it comes to you guys spending our money, and that's just like a lot to throw at us for us to swallow all at one time, especially, I mean, it's not really for me, it's more for my kids, my grandkids, and things like that down the road. Not to say that it didn't hit us also, but do you guys not own land like around the county, different places, like maybe it didn't sell at an auction and the county purchased the land and different things? I'm asking, I really don't know. I've heard that.
We own a lot of property.
A lot of
around Lakeview Mountain Estates, Holiday Haven, that are small parcels of property, most of them straight up and down, that we got because the people didn't pay their taxes on them, and they just gave it back to us. We have two pieces of property. One of them we're selling at Pine Creek Saddle Club. We have another piece of property downtown behind the new Smithville Police Department that we're hoping to be able to sell.
So you guys have already thought about selling property, so that way you can help offset some of
Yes,
the costs of-
absolutely,
as
yes.
far as that. So, my other question is to the tax, that you froze the taxes. I've spoken to different people, and they, like elderly people, they didn't know that that was an option, and there's a time limit on that. And so there had been people that went up after they found out about it, but it was already too late, so they didn't get to get theirs in. So you might really want to think about that, especially for the people that it would benefit, the elderly people. So, that's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you.
And with the tax that you were just talking about, I think they have to reapply every year. That's a one-year thing. And if they don't reapply, they don't qualify the next year.
But when they go into Sean Driver's office to pay their taxes, they can reapply right then, right? I'm not sure. Other comments?
My mama said, respect my elders. My name is Jennifer Solis. I live at 218 Highland Drive. I just have a couple questions. The first one, I was wondering whose idea it was to combine the jail location and putting ball fields on the same property?
We just started a Parks and Rec grant, and we can qualify for up to $250,000 to build a ball complex, but we got to own the land. So we were actually just looking to see, and it was just thrown out there. It wasn't nothing that we acted on. We were just talking about it. And if we did have the land, we actually qualified to build this ball complex for all the kids in the community for free.
Okay, I was just wondering the thought process behind
We
that.
thought
I
it'd
was
be
just
good to have
curious
it close
as
to
a
the
mother
sheriff's office.
and a teacher.
Yeah.
And the person that runs our Center Hill Soccer Club and a member who helps out with children in our church. I'm around children all day, so I was just wondering the thought process of putting children on the same property as a jail. That's all. Okay, good to know.
Darcy Cripps, First District. I've been up here 1,000 times. I try to attend most of the meetings. I try to understand what's going on. I sat idly by for a long time and didn't pay enough attention. And I just decided to change that. The first thing that tripped my trigger was this criminal justice center. I've talked to Patrick. I know we need a jail. I know law enforcement. I've dispatched in a couple of different counties. I know the need is there. It's been said by a couple of people here tonight that people are just concerned. You know, there's never been anything, and I know y'all said you had a open hearing a year ago, or whenever Matthias, it was a year ago, 2024, I guess. I missed it. I didn't know anything about it. I would have been there. People, like so many others have said, people just want to see what you're talking about. They want to see that you can't do anything with the jail. Bob, Bill, Mr. Bass, you know, I've heard him speak several times. He doesn't recommend doing anything with the present property. Well, show us. Show us it can't be done. Show us it's not feasible. Whether it's the same amount of money or whether it's more money. The $65 million bond had pork built into it, and we all know that. And it was for the whole project. It was for a criminal justice center. As a jail, it might be a lower cost. No one has presented that to us as a public. No one has shown us plans. And just because it says phase 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever phase it is, doesn't mean that that dormitory style couldn't be changed. If it shows the property and the ability to add, we can change the dormitory part of it. That's not a difficult thing to do. We don't need 70 acres. If we build a jail, if we build a 300-bed jail with the finest KitchenAid kitchen and the finest offices and a ball field for the inmates, we don't need 70 acres. If we put every emergency service we have on one property, we don't need 70 acres. We just don't. People are afraid. How many of y'all, sorry, I have a cough drop. How many of y'all received calls from your constituents concerning the tax raise? Raise your hand. That's it? Just a couple? People are scared, y'all. Young married couples are scared. Young married couples, single people are scared. They're paying a boatload of taxes right now. Someone stated our senior citizens. You know, widows, widowers, single people, just single people are scared of what the next tax raise is going to bring them. They are, and I said this at the meeting Monday night, people are budgeting their food to feed their kids or to feed themselves, their gas. People have had to redo their whole budget. And y'all, I don't know how y'all feel about it, but we are not in pleasant times right now. We're just not. We don't know if we're going to get a Social Security check next month or an SSI check for our disability, our child who has disabilities. We don't know if their check's coming next month. Who's going to take care of them? Who's going to feed them? If we can't write a check to pay $400,000 to have the HVAC system fixed in our courthouse, if we can't spend a couple of $100 to patch those places on that wall that have been there for 2 years, we can't build this. We just can't. We can't afford it. And my grandkids can't afford to pay it back because by then they're going to have new schools to pay for. They're going to have new other projects to pay for. I know my time's probably up. They're going to have other things that they have to fund and pay for with their money. And who knows where we're going to be next year, let alone 10 years. You know, people are scared of the back door. People are scared of, well, they're buying 70 acres, they're going to build a jail now. But in 2 years, they're going to throw us a big criminal justice center and a big ambulance place and a big fireplace and all the amenities that go with. That's just what I'm telling you, people I have talked to, that is their concern. That's their worry. If you come up with a plan, if you can show us the jail and the phases that went with the jail and the veterans building, talk to the school board, buy their building. I mean, it can be done somehow or another to keep us from going into massive debt. I can't imagine any one of you run your households that way. Don't run our county that way. Thank you. And I do appreciate what y'all do. And I'm not up there because, you know, I'm not up there for a reason. So I do appreciate y'all, what y'all do.
Hey Larry, have y'all checked on the property over by Dispatch. The little lot right there, it's about a half acre the county owns.
Where the,
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there's another half acre up by the square. I mean, that should be pretty decent, desirable.
Good evening. I'm Sammy Maxwell. I live at 107 North Mountain Street in the 3rd Civil District of DeKalb County. I want to thank everybody, especially the commissioners. I know you have a very difficult decision. And our gallery, you're here because you're very concerned. You're concerned about the future and the present. We have to consider both eras of time. I think the final matter boils down to this. We had earlier a proposal that was passed out in the gallery. I know y'all had several papers. I don't know what they were. I'm certain they were very to the point and concerned you and did not concern us. But this proposal that was sent out, I have no idea. I've not audited that sheet. I have not talked with Mr. Stanley. I don't know where the amounts came from. And I don't know that I need to be concerned with that. But what struck me about that proposal was the bottom line. 28 million, and a lot of the gallery, we thought that was reasonable. It might be 32 million. It might be 35 million. But the bottom line is that is about as far as we can go. Like I said, you have to consider the future and the present. The hallmarks of good government, of which I do know some about, are compromise and leadership. And I know that you have a very difficult task before you. But why don't you just kind of take the 35 million, give or take, and hopefully down, and see what you can do with 35 million. And then that way, you would have something that maybe the taxpayers would be satisfied with. They've told you in November they were not happy with the $65 million bond issue. I'm certain that many in our county, we would be elated if we could afford that. But DeKalb County is not just ultra wealthy, and praises be to our Creator that we are not at the bottom of the barrel, but we can get there in a hurry by spending. You don't get out of a financial crisis by spending money. You have to watch every move. So with that in mind, let's all just compromise, encourage, civilize, and try and come to some consensus here. And another thing that would help us is you have all discussed all these properties and stuff. Can't you look around the county and find some properties that maybe you've overlooked? We're going to get a new school. Could the Bryant Street property maybe suffice? You've said downtown cannot work out. Well, maybe we need to talk to the architect, tell him what we've got. We've got a crisis here. We've got $35 million, and we've got this property and this property. Can you guide us in some manner to show us something that will, for the present time and the near future, help us? And then maybe, in the future, maybe we can afford more. But for right now, I think the gallery has let you know, and I think the ballot box let you know, that about 35 million is what we're settled in on. Thank you.
All right.
My name's Jama Holcomb, and I have been doing a little research. And from just the little research I've done, Mayor, I bet the citizens and the commissioners would like to hear why we're a closed county now. I'm sorry, we're now an open county. We were a closed county. And what I'm talking about is our ambulance service. We're now paying, we no longer do the local transfers. Our ambulance service does not. A private corporation is coming in and getting this money. Our income level, it has gone down because of this. And it's going to get to a point that the EMSs are going to want to raise. But private ambulance services are coming in, transporting people from our county, either in the county, going from the hospital to the nursing home, or they need to be transferred to Nashville. Now, if it's a heart attack or something, our ambulance service will do it. But just from the little research that I've done, and I want to know, did the mayor ask you commissioners to change it, to go from a closed county to an open county? Or Mayor, did you just, once again, decide that you wanted to do this on your own? Like so many decisions you make. But I found just from my little research, and I got this from personal reasons. My family's been out of the hospital, and the private ambulance people show up to take them every time. But just where I've checked, it's a little over $500,000 that our county is losing in revenue. And I'm sure there's a lot more because I just did a little research. So there's your $500,000 that we can get to start working towards our jail, which everybody's been talking about tonight. We need schools, and Lord knows our roads need to be worked on. So Mayor, did you bring this before the commissioners, or did you just make this decision to be an open county?
So you need to go back and do a little bit more research.
Okay.
And find out that we still do out-of-town transfers.
You don't do in-town?
We do in-town transfers also.
Well,
we have let STEM's
Mm-hmm.
ambulance service come in and take some of the hospital transports because our ambulances are too tied up.
They're not tied up. You can have that. From what I've seen, and this is just me, I can be proved wrong, and I'll admit it, but where they come from the hospital and taking somebody from the hospital over to, say, NHC,
Mm-hmm.
you can drive by the ambulance service over here, and there's all the ambulances. You know, if you bring that back in and you got all the money, you know, why would you pay why would we let a private company come in?
The reason why we started letting STEM's ambulance service take some of our transports, it started in COVID because we were overran. We only had 2 ALS ambulances, and we had more patients than what we could care for. I was one of those EMTs, by the way. I used to work at the ambulance service before I did this, and I worked during COVID, and we had to call more people in to try to take the amount of transports that we had. And we still, not to the extent of COVID, but we still have more ambulance transports than what our ambulances can provide. So we asked STEMS, and it was not just my decision. I am the executive of DeKalb County, and the ambulance service falls underneath.
Did you ask the commissioners if they wanted to change?
I did not ask the commissioners. Me and Hoyt Hell, the EMS director at the time, decided that we were going to let STEMS come in and take that because it was better than somebody laying in a hospital bed dying. It would be more ethical to get somebody else to take that person to a facility of higher care to where they could get the treatment they needed instead of passing away.
Okay. COVID's over. Why didn't you take it back? Why didn't we become a closed county once again? And
because we are
that
still
revenue.
understaffed, and we still need them to pick up some of the slack that we can't do.
Well, I'd just like to know, I just don't believe that we have that much that we
Well,
don't have that much.
You wanted an answer, and that's the
Okay.
answer.
Well, the EMSs are going to want a raise. Everybody likes to get a raise. I admit it. I want a raise. But you know what? They don't deserve one right now. Yes, they do a good job when they go out, but you drive by, they're
I'm
out there
sorry,
playing.
but I'm
Some
gonna
of
have to
their kids
disagree
are
with you.
there. When they go out now,
That I disagree with you. Those men and women that work at our ambulance service does a tremendous job, and they've saved countless lives in this county.
yes, they have. But I don't understand why you're giving that revenue away.
So,
And that's fine.
I don't
but
know if I can make you understand it any better than
if
what I've
you
already
could show me
said.
numbers, that would help me, and I'm sure the citizens would like to know.
Well, I think somebody's life's a little bit more important than making a little bit of revenue. And we wasn't making much revenue off of those runs going to Nashville because of the maintenance on our vehicles. Where we were running ambulances mileage up to almost 500,000 miles going back and forth to Nashville constantly.
Well,
And those ambulances are now close to over $250,000 for just one ambulance. I think the last one was a little over 300,000.
well, I found 500,000, just over 500,000.
I don't know if you're getting it on Wikipedia
that would
or
pay
what,
for an
but
ambulance.
I don't
And
know
yes,
what to
I
tell
know
you.
that the people do an excellent job when they go out, but they're not going out. They're not
Where'd
working
you
as hard
come
as they
up
should
with
be.
this, with these numbers?
I looked at some reports.
What reports? What agency provided those reports?
Well, you should already know that.
If I knew, I wouldn't be asking you.
You can find anything on the internet. You can talk to people in this county. You can
But
find
you
the
can't
information.
share your information.
I'm not going to, no.
Okay, well, that,
If I can find it, you
then your
can find
argument's
it.
irrelevant if you can't tell me where it come from.
You can't
Because
tell me
I don't
what-
even think, I think they're false. I mean, I don't have no means
Well,
of even
Hey,
saying
Mayor.
that they're true.
There would be you $500,000 to go towards your jail.
Again, I don't think I can
Or
help you
our
understand
jail.
it any further.
when these ambulances take these passengers, that ambulance company bills that individual?
No, we pay them.
The
They
insurance bills.
They bill
Right,
us.
so insurance gets billed. That, either
Yes.
way, what is the county out?
What are we out?
Yeah.
I mean, it just depends on the run.
Okay, so now I'm kind of catching.
Depends if it's a BLS
No,
run
I
or
don't know.
ALS, and I'm not an expert. I mean, that would be something for somebody in EMS billing to answer, but I know they bill for different things. and
So they
then
bill us, not me
They
individually?
bill the insurance
Yes,
first.
Right.
they'll bill
And
your
then whatever the
insurance.
insurance don't pay, then,
They come to the county for.
yes.
No,
Well,
they'll go to the person and then
out
collections,
the
there's a process.
I think 2 weeks from tonight, we have a health education and public welfare.
'Cause I remember when I was on this committee, we were having to vote to, I want to say wipe off, but there was a lot of debt that this county was owned by people who just didn't pay
Right.
their bills.
Yeah.
So my question was, if this company now fights that battle, let them fight it. Because, I mean, we were wiping off thousands of dollars that people owed that
Yeah.
couldn't pay or died. You know, you can't bill a dead person.
Well, maybe by next month I can see bi-monthly how many times our ambulance goes out.
And
Well, that was
For
what I was going to
emergencies,
ask.
for
We
emergencies.
will.
Do
we
you
will-
know, Mr. Mayor, kind of the average per ambulance calls per month? Do
I
you have-
don't have access to that information.
yes,
I'm
but-
coming to a jail committee meeting, not an ambulance meeting.
Right.
At the next
But-
But the
HEP.
EMSs, I
There's
mean, when they go
also-
out,
you
they
need to
do
check with
a
the-
good job.
Look around to other counties too, because STEMS has an ambulance in Warren County, White
Warren
County,
Warren
Cannon
County
County.
went back to a closed county.
They're there. STEM's ambulance goes to Warren County, because they leave Warren County to come pick up our patients to take them to Nashville. So I know they're in Warren County.
Okay.
All the other counties around us has a STEM ambulance also.
So they're throwing away money too.
We can't-
Thank you all. Just from the research I found.
So
And somebody left their good pen up here
I'm
too.
half and half here. Meaning half of our districts across the river, I would appreciate the ambulance being over there. I mean, our
right.
people's over there dying.
I did want to answer Darcy's question about the jail and the current location. So the quote that we had at the current location with no courthouses, just a jail only, 51.7 for the structure, 5.1 million was what they call soft costs, like everything that goes inside. To house inmates in another county based on today's total population for 18 months, which if you had to do a 4-story jail, I don't know if 18 months would be long enough, but just conservatively be 1.9 million. And then if we purchase that extra lot that was mentioned earlier, 359,000. So the total to build just a jail in the current location for 190 beds, current specification will be 59,146,055. And that's to get us at 190 beds, current location, which is less than the recommended amount by CTAS, who did the jail assessment.
That doesn't.
All right, on that CTAS.
Anyone else want to make a comment?
Moving the septics and stuff.
I'll make this quick because we've been here a long time.
Now, this old man needs to go to the
I
bathroom.
think it's what it says, you can't be longer than your behind can endure, so we've been here a long time, so yeah. My name is Denise Page. I am from the 4th District. Yeah, Cully lets me know that. And this is my first meeting. I've lived here in DeKalb County my whole life. You can tell how old I am, and this is my first meeting, and I have learned a lot. This is crazy, guys. This is absolutely off the wall. This is as good as Alexandria's going on down there. And that's saying a lot, folks. But I understand. I've learned a lot. These guys over here have made some great points. I agree with some. I have a little bit of disagreement with some. Y'all made some good points. The young man in the corner, you explained stuff very good. Yeah, besides Sabrina, you explained stuff very good. I learned a lot from you. Sabrina, I learned a lot from you describing Smith County. I understand we got to have a jail. And you got standards of this. I get that. I don't quite agree with the size of 190 beds. It's like, do we really have that many mean people in this county? That goes to you need to put the fear of God in their heart. They don't need to come to DeKalb County and know that you better not get arrested in DeKalb County because it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. And did you say $100,000 in dental on inmates? Over $100,000 on dental? You know what that tells me? I guess I need to be in jail. But I'm a single mother. I have a home down Holiday Haven. I'm in the process of getting a 3rd job for the simple reason to pay my insurance, to pay my taxes, to buy eggs, and maybe eat a steak every once in a while, not a peanut butter sandwich. But I mean, that's something that you just kind of have to, Dwayne, I know, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be calm. But I will say this. You guys, I wouldn't be in your shoes for your socks. Ain't no way. DeKalb County, and you say you've got to be inside the city limits? Off the top of my head, Tony probably could tell me, but I can't think of a place that you've got enough acreage that you're not going to go through a residential. We're a rural county. That's a problem right there inside of itself. So I don't have the answers, but I would do listen, these guys did have some good comments. They did. And speaking from a poor person who's getting a 3rd job, listen to them. They know what they're talking about. Especially, and when I had to take care of dads, I do know about the taxes, and it had to be done too, but there was a certain time limit. But I only found out about that by probably mistake. So maybe kind of a little bit more information to the public, kind of go out that way. But I appreciate it all. I do appreciate you guys. And I appreciate the guys that they actually come in, they're concerned about it. At least you know. Good or bad, at least you know. So it's after 9 o'clock. I think we need to go home. I'm done. Thanks, guys.
I want to assure y'all, we are going to build this as cheaply as possible to meet standards. I mean, the state is not going to tell us exactly what to do. We have to make that determination based upon what we think we can afford in this county. county. And every one of these commissioners, every one of us work here, raise kids here, we've got grandkids here. We care as much about this county as anybody else does. We all pay taxes, just like everybody else does. We don't want to spend any more money than we absolutely have to. Now, we've had a lot of stuff that's been dumped on us because things have been kicked down the road, just down the road. But I'm not sure, and I don't think Sheriff Ray's sitting there, I don't think he wants us to kick this down the road, because a lot of it depends on what his jail operates. I think in any of our deliberations, whether it's people, and all of our committee meetings are open to the public, we have the interests of the people at heart. We want to spend as little as we can possibly spend on it and still satisfy you all and satisfy the state. So we're kind of between you guys and the state. We got to work both sides of the coin, and we've got to come up with a solution. And it's right. There's a compromise. The criminal justice center is off the table. The $65 million bond is off the table. That's all in the past. So what we're trying to do is come up with a compromise, what will satisfy y'all, and still build something for this county for the future. Now, it may, and what we build today, we're not building for 30, 40 years from now. We're building today so that it can be added on to in 30, 40 years. Let somebody else pay for it. And I think that's kind of the will of this whole commission. We don't want to build anything bigger than what we absolutely have to, because we all pay taxes too. And I can tell you my tax bill went up just like y'all's did. Matthias.
Me? Tony? I did too. I did too.
I got name tagged.
But we really do appreciate y'all coming out. Complex, probably want to go home. But we thank y'all for coming out.
Yes, I'd just like to thank the public. You know, there's a lot of insight.
Yep.
We thank y'all for coming.
I'll let you know, I hear loud and clear. The 85% vote was very loud. Thanks for